Hey guys, on a Friday afternoon, welcome to the final 2 hours of trading in the day and also in the week. Nicely positive for U.S. markets right across the board. 0.6 for the S&P, the Dow a quarter of a point to the upside, the NASDAQ following suit. 0.7, nice day for Brazil, 1.2% in positive territory. Crude oil back to the upside after starting the day in the red. Bitcoin, back in the red after starting the day higher. Same story for Ethereum, bit of a sell-off here as we head towards the weekend. Interesting afternoon so far. As we said, we are positive up here. This is the S&P 500. It is the tech sector leading the way to the upside. Broadcom, we mentioned this morning, if you joined us, 7% to the upside so far for Broadcom. AVGO, all-time highs today. Oracle as well, now 15. Wow. I didn't even know that. 15.8% to the upside for Oracle. Huge mover today. Adobe here, IT, PayPal to the downside again. We'll talk about some of these payment processors. Weak to end the week once again. Square as well, following suit back to the downside. There's Etsy, 3 days now to the downside for Etsy, 4%. Amazon, bit of a sell-off today. Penn, Expedia, some of the travel names as well. Ford, huge mover today, 7.5%. Back in positive territory. There's GM as well. We'll cover a few of these today. I just wanted to mention Costco there as well, off of earnings. Impressive move for Costco, being a $500 stock and all. It has been a pretty good trading day. Lots of opportunities. We discussed a whole bunch of them. If you joined us at 8:30 in the morning, make sure you join us every day before the market opens at 8:30. We discuss everything that is moving around in the pre-market and talk a little bit about why they are moving around and then come up with a game plan. We're going to kick things off as we do every single afternoon with a bit of a review of some of those ideas we were talking about this morning. Neil's going to lead the way here and give us a look at what he was trading this morning.
Yes, sir. Let's talk a little Peloton here. Could have done Apple trading, but I think there was more to learn from the Peloton trade than the Apple trade long, which was, I want to say, a little bit easier to pull off. But Peloton came in, another set of downgrades, and it's been under pressure. Like, this is something I think we all understand. But instead of usually a 15-minute chart or a daily chart, I actually have a 60-minute up here because I wanted to at least be able to highlight the recent support level. This becomes very, very important. And the reason why is, if you were trading this morning, Chewy was just as weak off earnings, if not weaker, and had a similar setup. And I'll show you why Peloton was a better trade, or at least a trade that made more sense to me. And Arun as well, who took the same trade. I'm looking at this recent support, only level marked off. Previous support area at $41, and that is over the last week or so. And you come in today, and all I'm thinking about is the pop, and I'm thinking about the fade. And it's a 41 area stop. You can sort of see when you go back to the 60-minute that it's traded through. Peloton, pretty volatile stock. It trades through that price, holds within 20, 30 cents each day, couple of wicks below, a couple of times it goes above that price. So you know immediately this is not some hard 41 stop you're going to have here. I know I want to short the pop coming in. If there's one mistake I probably made, we talked about this in the morning show, it's like, well, I'll take a chance in front of 40. I probably didn't need to get 10% of the position there. I could have certainly just waited for it to get up right into that range. We get to that 40-50, I get in, I wait for the failure. This is the sort of key. It actually tries to break 41 even, and then my last entry is on the way back down. That's when I get the last of my shares. Usually it's your biggest entry size. The way I like to think about it here is, minimum, you're trying to get half your position on the way back down at the top, or leaving your last entry for about half so that you have your best overall price. Again, there's a million ways you can do that. But then I'm thinking first level of profit is pre-market consolidation here. I did admittedly miss a reload because when we came back up here, I really did think we're going to get a little bit closer to that 41. So I wasn't ready at that time in the morning. And this is a consequence. If you're ever trading multiple symbols, right, this is the opportunity cost of doing so because you're not honed in to be able to just catch that turn at 40.25. If you're in 4 or 5 positions at once, and you have to understand that sometimes you will miss that because you were waiting for that price area, whether you set alert, whether you have an order out there. But if you're focused on one stock, you cannot be missing that reload. I come back and think same exit point here, 394. At all times, I'm thinking short any kind of a pop back into my range, so I'm taking profit off of those lows. We do eventually get a breakdown all the way to the 38 level. That's another target out. I'm actually still holding this position as we shoot this, so I'm looking to see if we can't break even further down. There's really not a heck of a lot of support till 35 or 36. And the key thing about this trade, and obviously that pop and fade trade, it can work in both directions. You can do that when you're going long off bottoms. But the difference between this and Chewy is Chewy had gapped down so far that it didn't have a previous support level of significance where you had trading in that range that you could be confident if that range breaks and it holds a bit above there, I'm out. That was nowhere in sight in Chewy. So the short looked just as good on Chewy at 52, 53, let's just say, but you had nowhere to look at for that range to be out. And I always try to think about this, where am I wrong? What am I going to see or what's going to have to happen to tell me that I am wrong in this trade? And if I can't figure that out, then I don't want to be in that trade, because what happens, it goes against you. You start averaging in, you just start holding it, thinking I'm not taking a hit, I'm right about this trade. But I've got to know what conditions make it wrong. This is a perfect example of where we could find that. 2 short setups, didn't take Chewy, did take it here in Peloton because I knew exactly where we had to get out or what we would have to see in order to get out there.
Lots of opportunities. Peloton, interesting one. There's so many different catalysts or news lines, news stories coming out on Peloton. Almost seems like daily basis. If you're looking for a absolutely free resource, that is the link to the watch list, guys. We send it out every single day. Before we come on at 8:30, I'm just watching this SGMA. Sigma going absolutely crazy here this afternoon. We'll touch on that one this week. Not that Sigma. I'll show you another one here in a second, but the watch list this week brought to you by xsigma-trading.com. Check them out. Thanks so much to them for bringing in the watch list this week. This Sigma, SGMA, up 54% now. Just made another day high through 1250. No, it's not the same thing. This is a micro cap or nano cap semiconductor. They reported second quarter results that were better than expected. They also updated a acquisition on the call as well that is proceeding as it should be, apparently. So SGMA here, lots of people discussing this one, guys. Huge volume just coming in here at day highs.
Did you say volume? We like volume. Like if you, obviously in the afternoon show, it's a little bit of a different fade, because in the morning, look, you've got all day for your trade to work. You've got plenty of time to play off your level and get a bit of a runner. But if you're not moving in the last hour, in this case 2 hours of the day, then there's just not going to be a good enough opportunity for you. So we do hunt things that have volume. At first, I was like, when you started into that, Brennan, I actually thought to myself, oh my goodness, Sigma. I know Sigma. Of course, it's not them. Already breaking this level on the daily, but I don't think we've truly, this is 1245. I don't think we've truly gotten through this, what I think would be resistance till you get to 13. But the reason why I would not be short this right now, look how linear that move is. It's just kind of straight up, no big pullbacks, no crazy candles. So when it gets to that 1250 on the daily, there's nothing really telling you that it is slowing down or showing any signs of it. I almost want to see one last parabolic move up and a failure before you think about that. And the long trade, if you're scalping it, fine. But when you've missed out on this much of a move, a lot of times I'm thinking hold a bit above that 50 and then retake a level upside, or look for the reversal, which for me, that's what I would try to do here, Arun. But yeah, I got some active ones on here, as you can see. Still an Apple from the morning in the long trade and still in that Peloton we just talked about. But a new one is that BKKT, which I think I put in the chat during Trader Prad and Miss V show.
Yeah, and I've got some trades from this morning as well. Peloton, you've got a better price than I do, but we're both thinking the same thing about shorting north of 40. So here we are holding on to our 40.23 shorts. Microsoft, remember I was talking about that 340 break that I wanted to see how it trades through the bottom there. Break through the top, come back in. Do we get enough buy-side action? I saw enough, so I stepped in, took the shot at 339.50. Here we are about $2, no, not $2, but that's $1 in the money and change. And then the big one, I think, is going to be Roku. Roku is moving, and it is $4.55 in the money. And we talked about this one as well, 332 break. I want to see how this trades around 332. It did well, so I went for the short, 331.96 on the short side. And here we are sitting at a $4.60 winner. And you see my order down here. It's a ways away, 221 and change. So we're still about $6 from the target. It's just a matter of how am I going to manage this, because it has space to move. Is it going to pick up? One thing I also want to talk about is the futures contract. Remember this morning when I came on, I said that depending on how it trades, I may flip over to the March contract. Yeah, so I'm actually going to do this right now for you guys. I'll do this live. It's December contract has done 650,000 shares, or 650,000 contracts. And the March contract has now done 735,000. So volume has shifted intraday from the December contract to the March. So it looks like March will take its place. It should be at the front anyways, but now it will take its place as the volume leader and the front month contract. So we will be looking at the March contract, the H22 contract on the S&P futures going forward, pretty much for another 3 months or so until this one expires. But it looks like volume has transferred over, so we're going to transfer over to the March contract as well. So you can see on the board my positions here. We've got the Peloton short, the Roku short, and the Facebook position, which is out 25 cents. And then we've got the Microsoft long on the other side.
A couple of things to note here. CELZ, C-E-L-Z on the NASDAQ. Volume coming into this one as well. Just broke 250 there. Immediately came right back down. This is a recent SPAC, or recent de-SPACing of a SPAC, I guess. Alzheimer's focused company, so some volume coming into this. I wanted to flip over and show you Broadcom as well, because just had some volume coming in on the sell side there for AVGO. 20, count them, 20-month high up here early on this morning. All-time highs as well for Broadcom, coming off a pretty impressive Q4 number out aftermarket yesterday. So one looking a little bit weak, the other one going crazy here, guys.
Yeah, I mean, if there's something that, well, nothing's rivaling, I guess, Oracle today, but Broadcom, I guess it got missed because Oracle was so strong, and rightfully so. I mean, it's $600 stock. It doesn't usually profile itself to trade, but it's done a tremendous amount of volume. It has since pulled back, and like you're not going to see me touch this in terms of a trade because of the consolidation it has. However, that is a pretty strong sign that it is holding up here. I don't think necessarily as much as, and I just mentioned Oracle, so I'll quickly show you Oracle. Of course, I always do. The thing about Oracle, Room, because you were like, Oracle, we think it's NASDAQ, but it's really New York. Oracle used to be on the NASDAQ.
It transferred?
Yeah, it transferred from NASDAQ to New York. So when I actually get this one wrong and I type NQ for Oracle, I have a really good excuse. But similar thing happening with Oracle, where it did pull back after making that all-time high, but it's a stronger consolidation. On my 15-minute, you'll see it above VWAP here, just holding a lot higher up. So Oracle's holding my beer to everything. It's just an unbelievable runner so far today, surprising me even a little bit here. And I actually thought that it was going to sort of retake that 100 level, and if it were to do that, there'd be a short on that reversal. But no, it has just found all kinds of a bid. The market holding up pretty well as well. I mentioned but did not show you guys BKKT, so I'm going to rectify that here because I know some might be watching this. This was not doing a heck of a lot of volume, basically just falling down all day long until we had a volume spike at about 1 o'clock during Trader Pratt and Miss V's show. And it came right back into morning resistance at 1475, 1480. You know, it kind of sat that one out, then popped up here again on low volume. Okay, good sign for the short. Consolidation short off of that level, out some in front of VWAP. I'm actually just on the bid here, going to see if we can't get a fill at 1410. Once I get that fill, I'll probably just leave it to see if it falls to the low of the day. Maybe adjust my stop to 1450 at that particular point. So BKKT short, Peloton short, Apple. I mean, it's still at the high of the day. Apple almost at that 178 mark, looking obviously very strong.
The one that's not exactly strong today, Chewy, to the downside, continuing as well. It's been a bit of a choppy trade so far, coming off earnings that were not what was expected. They were talking about some supply chain and higher costs hitting their bottom line in their report. So back and forth we go here for Chewy. Just topped out again there. It's still hard to believe this thing's at 52, but down 8% today.
I think with Chewy, though, is that we talked about the levels this morning, and they have refused to move out of those levels. It was 53 or so, depending on how it trades. It kind of leaked above, but never went through got above 53.50. And then 50 was the bottom, and we never went through 50. On the bottom side, we never went through 50 even. So we're still trading within a band, regardless of the fact that it's down 8.5% or just over 8.5%. We are range trading this. So This has got to move at some point. It may not do it today, but mark it off because there will be a trade on this. This type of consolidation is going to provide an opportunity either for the reversal to the buy side, meaning we're going to reverse this 8% move back to the upside, or we're going to extend this to the downside by taking out 50. Doesn't matter which direction it goes, just take the shot when it goes, right? It's one of those easier setups now that it's taking so long to make its mind up on which direction it wants to go. So there's definitely a trade to be made there. On Chewy, another name I actually want to pull up here is Cloudflare. I just noticed that it's down quite a bit, actually. It's down 5%, taking out some interesting levels from the last couple trading days. If I can get this thing to load right here, 146 and change. We finally kind of traded through here. We've been working this 150/146 area for a while now. It looks like at least since the beginning of the month, and we finally got through that 145/144 area. There's going to be some volume here that you can work with on the short side, right? It all depends on how it comes back up, but there's definitely some setup here that can be worked with at some point in the next few days. So definitely mark it off. See if we can get a trade on Monday. I'll be here on Monday. I'll definitely look at this and see if we can set something up on the short side. But for now, though, all I'm going to do is just manage the 4 positions I've got. Facebook, though, I might have to cut this one on Facebook given the way it's moving because it's not really expanding, and I'm wary of stepping into Facebook or Meta platforms. I'm kind of wary of stepping into names that are part of an index when I've got Microsoft on the long side. I'm thinking futures on the long side, and Apple clearly going to highs, and then here I am shorting Facebook or Meta. So I'm hesitant. I am short below 328. I'll give it a chance, but I may start tightening things up as we get closer to the end of the day on Meta.
In fairness, though, I mean, Facebook, it is relatively weak. So I get it. Like Microsoft is up a couple of points, actually more than that. Apple looks pretty strong, but you gotta. Like if you're gonna pick sides, the futures have been range bound, like you said. We're off the high when we got the push earlier this morning, and we didn't really break through that 4,700, and the Nasdaq couldn't break through 16.3. So if you're looking to short big tech, you pick the one that's relatively weak. I think Trader Pratt was like, I don't know about shorting Apple. Yeah, Apple's relatively strong. Go pick on something that's showing you the weakness. And the only thing I actually wanted to add something to Chewy because. I talked about it in the trade of the day there that there were no obvious levels on Chewy in terms of the upside where you'd be wrong. But it is worth noting this $50 level, which all morning I was like, yeah, 50 break. I think you could take a breakdown trade at 50 even. Double bottom at 50. And then I tried a VWAP reversal. We got in and out for like a 20-cent hit. Relatively tight stop there. But 50 on a break, this could be one for next week. I mean, if we close near that low, this could be a situation where you're coming in and then a continuation move on Chewy. It's like gap down, don't really fill in any of the gap, and then a 50 breakdown on Chewy. Ooh, like that could be a good one. I'm not sure after the bounce that it just made that it's going to get there in today's action. Actually, pretty unlikely on a Friday that we're going to see it, tank $1.50, have enough volatility to break through a 50 level and then continue. That seems unlikely at this point. I would have loved for it to have happened. Maybe a little bit, or during lunchtime when there'd be room to run. But catching a bit of a bid Chewy here could give a trade for next week.
Been a busy week for Cathie Wood and Ark Invest. A number of announcements, a brand new ETF, more predictions coming from Cathie Wood. We'll talk a little bit about in this video, guys, what she has said, what she has predicted, and why maybe this time it actually means something a little more significant. Here's a look at what Reuters had to say as far as their new transparency ETF hitting the market for the first time. So a new product coming along for Ark. We have more predictions, guys, including Bitcoin. Yeah, she's talking about 500,000 again.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talk, and her video or her interview, she was talking about the market's concern is inflation. But she was arguing that that's not the biggest issue. The market is hasn't seen the fact that deflation could be a problem. And the more I listen to her talk about it, I'm like, that kind of really makes sense. Because she was arguing that, because companies are trying to catch up to the demand that consumers have right now, that there's going to be a buildup of inventory at some point, which is going to expand next year or hit the market next year, which is going to be a deflationary issue, along with innovation, AI innovation, because that's her thing, AI innovation and whatnot. So the argument about deflation, when you think about it, it does make sense. Companies are trying to catch up. They're ramping up production, trying to build up inventory, And if demand were to fall off even a little bit, then you might have an oversupply, which could push down prices at an extreme level. But there seems to be a lot of buyers around. So, I mean, it's a grain of salt, take both sides of it. Inflation is a concern with current situations, but you also have to look forward to what the next possible problem is. Deflation could become a problem, but I don't think it's an immediate problem. I mean, we all have an opinion, and she's done very well for herself with her opinions on the future of things. Now, her CTRU, her transparency ETF, hasn't done so well since it's come out here. It's gone as high as about 2260 or so. This is the chart for the ETF here. 2060 or so, all the way up to 23 roughly, and here we are down at 19 and change. It's been trading for a couple days now. It's got to figure itself out as a stock for us to look at. As an investment piece, that's a different story. But as a stock, for us to trade on an intraday basis, I would argue that we would have to get at least back above 21 to get things excited again. Now, as an investment piece, though, it does seem like there's a lot of overlap. Obviously, this one is more of a ESG focused fund, which is environmentally and socially social governance. So it's more companies that are geared towards watching their footprint, their carbon footprint, and environmental laws, labor laws to take care of their employees, and mental health as well, and then also governmental rules and whatnot. So it's more like honest companies, and part of that is Tesla. But because of the companies that would be put in that fund, I feel like there's a lot of overlap with her flagship fund and the CTRU. So you may be overexposed by going into both of them. And this may be why you're seeing a dip here in the actual fund itself. Obviously, it's gotten money invested in it, but at the same time, you may not be getting the same kind of inflows as you would have expected, because there seems to be a little bit of overlap between the companies that are in play here. But it is something to keep an eye on. ESG funds are hot things right now, not immediately, but it has been something I want to say the last couple of years, at least 2-3 years or so. And it's definitely going to be something of the future, right? Everybody wants to be invested in a company that is socially conscious, socially aware, and taking care of their employees, also with the environment, with climate change being a hot topic right now. It's all part of the future, and that's where she's investing. She invests much further out in the future than, say, most other people would look. If they're looking 5 years out, she's looking much further than that. So definitely something of a fund to look at for the future, and technology and AI, because that is definitely her bread and butter, and she's going heavy in it with her two funds.
Yeah, and like you said there, I think we should double down on that. Understand that if you're invested in one of the Ark funds, like, you probably are going to have a lot of holdover. Like if you show that CTRU, and I can quickly show you here. I mean, you can have Apple's in there, but you have NVIDIA up at the top, Enphase, Cloudflare. But I love this website here. It's kathysark.com, just to see what's been going on recently, because you talk about Tesla being in that CTRU as well. Well, it's also the number one in the flagship, right? You know Elon's been selling shares, and you know that's put some pressure on the flagship fund. In addition, all those growth names have been under pressure as well all year. It has not been the greatest performance. I mean, it was down about 10% in December, and almost a full 25% on the year, Ark. But recently, what actually makes some sense is trimming some Tesla here recently, because it has gotten very overweight. So on the way down, little adjustments being made, buying some bottoms on things like Twitter, Teladoc, UiPath. So it's this theme where, and this is where it comes down to what I guess what you were saying there, Arun, where it's all about that long term. And obviously, Kathy Wood is thinking about that long term, because you're going to be picking up names which seem like you're catching a falling sword. But I suppose if you have an outlook that's 2 to 5 years or even longer than that, it changes the litmus here. But obviously, from just a simple technical standpoint, it has not been a fantastic year. You have already twice now broken through that 100 level and theoretical support in May, where a lot of stocks that were depressed had great bottoms here in May and have broken back out from these levels. And you're breaking back below this 100 mark and under a little bit of pressure going into the end of the year. Now, if your time frame is long enough, you have to remember and put things in context how strong a run this has been on over the last, since the 2020 bottom, right? Like this is a 30 to 160 move. So in that context, okay, the momentum is broken, but at the same time, you're still getting it well above some of these previous breakout prices. So, is it a time that you might nibble in if you're looking for something that you want to have long term and you're not trying to pick and choose? If you believe in that thesis, and those are interesting points that she made about inflation and her outlook there. I don't 100% necessarily agree with them, but it's definitely food for thought, and I hadn't actually thought of it that way. But Ark, you'd like to see it back above that 100 level, but I like the fact that they're actually trimming some Tesla, because they're so overweight, some of these names, that you'd like to make sure they're maintaining that balance.
I got to understand the environment that we're in, obviously, and understand where we are overall in the market. As you said, 52-week lows took it through 100, straight to 90, now trying to bounce for the flagship fund. So not the right environment, but an interesting time and an interesting year for Kathy's Ark, guys. Let's talk a little bit about a couple other names in that fund. I mentioned right off the bat here at 2 o'clock, guys, some of the payment processors back to the downside again today. There's no real significant catalyst. I mean, that inflation number this morning comes exactly almost in line with expectations. The market tries to rally off of that, but have a look at both Square, first of all. Thank you, Lucas. And PayPal looking very similar, but a big move down. This was, if I zoom out here a little bit, this was actually quite positive in the pre-market, got absolutely flush. And now we're working back to day lows here again for Square.
Yeah, look, sometimes you just have to be able to cut bait, right? Like, it's the same thing. If I'm looking to go long, and this was a bit of a 185 on the 15-minute, I'll go. This is Square, by the way, not PayPal. This 185 the last couple of sessions came in the morning. And it's like, yeah, if we dip down in this price, I'll try a dip buy in front of it. If it breaks, I'm just going to be out. This is my out here, literally 184.80. So relatively tight stop on the Square trade as we got in, we got out. I didn't average into it. At that point, if you're not going to hold that level, I didn't want any part of it. And the truth of the matter is, with the fintech, these fintech names, they've been getting really, really beaten up lately, and they have not, even the ones that I like Square, probably a little more than PayPal, but either one has probably fallen a lot more than everyone would have expected. And it's been a really rough ride on the way back down. It's very similar to that Ark chart where you're saying to yourself, okay, but this is pretty much fine if you have it at some of these older breakup prices. But I always sort of say, when you're trying to discuss price action and think about where the stock is going to go, you've got to throw out the window what your cost base is or what you have. It's just you're trying to make decisions on where something's going to go, and you don't want to anchor yourself to whatever price you bought it at. So you look here, and it's hard to be in love with it below that 200 mark and not want to wait this out and see if it can't settle down at 150 to 160. Certainly, it would have been a great start if it had held that higher low today, especially with you had that inflation number came as expected. It's a big number, that 6.8, but the market tried to rally off it. You would love to have seen a hold of a level like that on a Square or a PayPal. That would have been a very, very positive and bullish sign. We didn't get that today, so I'm not adding into this until it makes the next flush into the downside, or you can just be patiently waiting for it to break back out. It's just the momentum clearly hasn't quite reversed just yet. If you're looking to initiate a position and you don't have anything in this at all, and you're just starting, well, I guess any pullback, this deep is certainly a worthwhile point for the long term. But Square, not a great day for it today. PayPal, pretty much the same thing. Where you did have a lot of the tech names catching a bit of a bid, and you're noticing where the relative strength and weakness has been on a day like today. Like you saw, your Microsofts and your Apples up, and then today, like your Squares and PayPals and your Facebook actually a little bit weak today. A little bit surprised about Facebook, to be honest with you.
Weakness in Facebook, I like it. Now it's turned into money, 50 cents in the money on Facebook. So weakness, I'd like it on that. So now all of them are in the money, actually. I'm doing well for all 4 positions. Going back to the PayPal and Facebook, the charts look very similar. It makes sense. But for me, I actually want to focus on Square, because I actually think Square, I can set up a better trade on Square than I can on PayPal. The reason being, we're sitting at 180. There's a little bit of support here for the next $3 or so going down. 177 would have to be the break point. So if we were to find a trade, it could be a long, nice little long here with a decent setup on the buy side with the 177 stop. Clearly, there's downside momentum, and there's a trend to some degree going down towards that 180. So Would I go for the short? No, because there's a decent amount of support here below it. Would I go for the long? Not yet, right? It's all a matter of timing, especially when it comes to trading. It's all about timing, and right now the timing isn't right, but it could be. It could be setting up nice, especially around these prices. So keep an eye on how Square's trading as we kind of work the next $3 or so going through this 180. If there's any sort of buy-side momentum or buy-side setup that comes into play, then that could actually work out well for a nice little move back towards those 186s, 187. So definitely keep an eye on Square. PayPal obviously is going to have the very similar chart like I mentioned. The problem with PayPal is that it's got levels on top of levels that you could argue oh, maybe we should use this one or that one. It's got way too many. And usually when there's way too many like that, it just makes things a lot messier. Although the chart is not identical, but very similar, there's also upside resistance levels. There's like upside resistance levels that are actually stepping down. So you have levels coming down and you have the old levels just below you. So it makes the trade either side very difficult. So that's why I would prefer Square over PayPal, just because the charts look a little bit cleaner. And we're talking in terms of either a swing or even a day trade if you catch the right locations. But definitely keep an eye on Square for potential trade south of 180.
Just noticed crypto stocks starting to go back to the downside, along with Bitcoin. I wanted to mention, this is not one of those, but I wanted to mention C3 AI, if you missed it this morning. $500 million government DOD contract announced. Had this thing up more than 20%. My initial reaction to that was might be a little bit overdone. Comes right back into a decent level up here on the daily chart to give you a nice opportunity to fade this, but looks kind of similar to that chart that Rune was just talking about there on PayPal and Square, trying to hold some key levels here for AI this afternoon.
Yeah, so I traded AI this morning and I got run over on AI. So I went long expecting some support around that 3550/35 area. Yeah, it just kept going. It went right through, went to 34. I was like, oh, it's still within the support band. And then it kind of bounced like $1 and then another leg. And here we are bouncing off that 33 now, back towards that 33.50 or 63 we're at right now. There's a lot to digest with AI. This move itself kind of needs a few days to work itself out because there could be a trade. But again, the way it's moving, there's enough sell side action. I should have recognized this earlier, is that once it took 37, there was probably a better probability of the short working out than the long, but I still held on to the idea of the 35 long just because I thought at the time the support was bigger than the resistance. Clearly I was wrong. So keep an eye on this 40 area because not even 40, it's going to be 41. 41, and you're not going to see it on this chart, but based on the way it moved with that explosion yesterday in the post-market, with that move all the way up to like 42 and change, that 41 area is going to be the top end because I think 40 is actually going to hold on to some volume as well. So north of 41 could provide a little move to the upside, but at the same time, once we get into 37, 38, you got to start looking for potential fades, right? Given the volume that you're seeing, there's definitely potential fades. As I'm looking up, I'm like, oh, sweet. Okay, our Meta is finally starting to go here. A nice little move. Now $1.90 in the money.
Close enough.
Yeah, I'll give you exact prices. 90 cents in the money. If we can take out this low, that would be nice. That's about 60 cents away on Meta, and the target for this is going to be somewhere close to about 325 and change. So we're waiting on Meta to kind of keep going here. So sometimes I'm always impressed. I'm like, Microsoft, Facebook, opposite directions, but doing just fine in their own little thing. I'm like, cool. Okay, you don't do that too often. But again, I trust the charts. I make my reads based on the charts, and I just let the charts do what they need to do. And I kind of just, if it means opposing trades it is. And futures, let's take a quick look at that March contract. Still within the bounds of the range. Oh, this is something I actually needed to talk about. The range bounds changed, right? Once we changed over from the December contract to the March contract, we need to change the levels that we're working with as well. The new levels, 47.05 on the top, and it's going to be 46.30 on the bottom. The old levels, 47.15 and 46.35. So we were making some adjustments on the levels on the March contract to keep an eye on. So we are still within the band of the range trade. So we'll keep an eye on this. It could get hot towards the end. Keep in mind, next week is quad witching rollover. not rollover. Rollover happened last night. Expiration. So there's going to be, for anyone who hasn't, I know there was a comment earlier about explaining quad witching. That'll be explained as we get closer and closer to the date happening. Because that's something you got to worry about on that day specifically. You don't have to worry about it going into it. Apart from trading the futures and knowing that the contracts have rolled over, not much of an issue, because the majority of volume, although there will be somewhat of a trickle effect going into it, the majority of the adjustments are made that day, right? There's going to be S&P adjustments. So there's going to be some buying and selling from the S&P indexes, the NASDAQ, the TSX. There's going to be a bunch of different indexes buying and selling shares to kind of account for some portfolio changes. So we'll deal with that on that day of. That brings, with that though, I will say, with that, it brings a ton of volatility, especially right at the close, right? So imbalances come out of 350. So just like any other day, imbalances come out of 350. But now these imbalances will be much larger than we're used to seeing, because on a regular day we see 1.5, maybe 2 million shares on the top end. Some of these imbalances, depending on what stock and what adjustments need to be made, you'll see 50, 60 million share adjustments on some stocks, and it's going to be volatile. And I remember last time I was in, someone said imbalances don't matter, and then we proved the point that imbalances matter, because one of the stocks that had a large imbalance that day. Was it Rivian?
Well, I wasn't here, but I remember you guys were talking about it. I came the day after, I think it was, and Sean mentioned it was like Rivian had the monster imbalance. I think.
It was one of those stocks, and it had an imbalance, and you could watch the influence an imbalance has on a stock. So you can only imagine what kind of influence these massive imbalances are going to have on that day for those individual names. You're going to have some extreme volatility. The only thing I could suggest for anyone who hasn't traded those days before, don't trade. Just stop trading at like 345.
That's actually a good idea.
Just walk away, because it gets very volatile very quick, and you need to be able to navigate this space very quickly. You need to have access to information, because information is constantly changing. Imbalances are constantly updating. So you need to be able to adjust on the fly. You need to know your orders, what order type you need to use. So there's special order types to use against these imbalances at the end of the day, like on close orders. Market on close orders, limit on close orders. You need to know when these imbalances update. There's a 350 update, there's a 355 update. You need to know how you can go against these imbalances. It's very complicated if you haven't done it before. Obviously,
and there's another point too. Actually, it's kind of been a rule on our floor that for new trainees when they come in, we have them flat. Like you usually don't want them even trading that last 20 minutes of the session. It's like you might have trades, but just take them off, sit it out, watch for the first time, and that even goes for the morning sometimes on a witching day. Because you get that extra volatility. And again, it's simply about if you don't know what you're doing and adjust your strategies, like it changes when the imbalances come out. You've seen it blow it out of the water. Like I'm in Apple right now. And even myself, like in an hour from now, if I'm still trying to get this to break out of this 178 high here, I'll consider covering it before 350. If suddenly the indicated imbalances are coming to the sell side and we're looking weak, I don't need there to be a sell imbalance when Apple's going into highs, because it's profit taking on a Friday, and then suddenly this goes from 178 to 177, and I could have just covered it at the high of the day without risking some kind of a move. It's just one of those things that you do over time. So thank you, William Craig, for everything. Member, I'll just put it in the chat here. Member for 7 months. William, thank you for being here. Like it's all about you guys. At the end of the day, like we're just sort of talking like we normally would on the floor. Like this is what we see, this is what we're sort of doing here, and then just passing on sort of like accumulated knowledge and when it comes to all of that. And quickly, just because I do still have this one trade, I wanted to get to CELZ in a second, but I just wanted to update. I was right on the bid at 14. This is 14.10 on BKKT. It wicks down there, and then popped back up, missed a reload at 14.65. I would have liked it a little bit better than that. And back to VWAP. So I'm going to get out some again at 14.30 just because I want to take some profit. But that CELZ that Brendan brought to our attention, another spike up. So as per usual, if Brendan comes up with the name and says this name is moving and it's worth a look, sometimes it's worth a look, because I forget exactly where it was. Obviously, it made this move after we talked about it. Just popped off of 275 even, and worth noting, because if you look at this was some resistance at 240, maybe call 250 resistance up here. It's got nothing. It's got a little cluster here from the third at 320, but a bit of air once it broke through that level, and now up to 275. I'd look at $3 even as maybe a next little joint up there, but sells that good little move. And for those of you that were involved in the chat while Arun was talking, At no point have I ever considered that Arun looks like Tupac. And now I can't not see the slight resemblance. Yeah, people have been talking about you look like Pac.
I don't see it.
You don't see it?
No.
But you drop in bars, though.
I mean,
bars. Yeah. Anyways, I just got some out of BKKT in front of VWAP so we can hit a key for it. There, might as well do that because we like to have a little bit of fun with it. I know. Yeah, I know. Maybe it's a little bit Tupac. I'm not saying he looks exactly like Tupac, but I can see the resemblance now that it was brought to my attention. There's one from the morning I wanted to come to because, it's like sometimes you have a target and the trade looks really, really good. Like this trade on CNTX, like everything about it, when you're here, it's like, oh man, this was great. It gave you it broke down this level, 760 to 750. It gave you the 930 rollover, goes down $1, comes right back up to 750, goes down $1 again. It's like, look at that, that's perfect. And then you hold on to the last of it to go down to $6. And even at that point, it looks like, okay, like hold your beer, you've done well. And every now and then, it doesn't age well because it goes to $5. Like and sometimes these things surprise you, right? I'm actually shocked. It broke through. The reason I got out here should be obvious, right? And we've seen this before. I'm looking at this previous resistance on the last pop, which turned into support yesterday to be support at the bottom. And it does not, it just chews right through that level, comes all the way down to $5 where I guess that would have been a God mode long and you could be sitting in front of it. If it comes down to 5, it might be worth a test again going into the close with a tight stop, but a great move down here. It looked a heck of a lot better until this flush happened. It's like, wow, sometimes it just goes to show there's no such thing as a perfect trade. You can have the direction right, you can have a great entry. No one ever gets the perfect winner. This was like at $2.50, and almost all of it I'm taking out for an average of like 60 or 70 pennies around here. So when you factor it all in, and it was 3 times that. So sometimes you just got to get yourself positive. You just got to make the winning trade as opposed to worry about being perfect because no one's ever going to be perfect.
Yeah, and
a couple of things, guys, I wanted to mention real quick here. GM, first off, if you missed it earlier this afternoon, GM went with news regarding a spend on their EV side of things. 4.6% back to the upside. While I was reading through that, some of the Trump-related SPACs started moving around again. So CFEI and DWAC both a little bit active here. But GM with a huge move, $3 billion coming according to the Wall Street Journal over the next couple of years for EV spending specifically, and more importantly, I would say anyways, in Michigan.
You know what's interesting about it? It's like GM is like the slow and steady sort of easy gainer for the EV space. Ford is your powerhouse of the old guard, and then you have all the other names, of course, like your Lucids and your Teslas and whatnot. But between those two, I don't think there's a gigantic difference. I know Ford is definitely the momentum play. In the inflationary environment that we're in, or at least I guess potential inflationary environment we're in terms of the market, charging you for high valuations. I like GM because it has been the lag, or the value is just a little bit better, and so I think there's less downside risk in this name as opposed to any of the other EV names in the market. And obviously Ford has a much stronger move, but you can see how well it's been bouncing now, rounding off of this 50-period moving average, and it's been a steady gainer. The drop back when we had the market pull back, like this was sort of muted. It bounced nicely out to 50-period, not challenging the 200, which is right up here as well. So it's a strong-looking chart, but all that said, it's still not even close to its all-time highs. While, these wicks, give me a break, this chart. Anyways, whatever, man, this is Ford breaking 21. So these all didn't happen, but this is Ford now taking out $21. And this is the difference. Ford is the more, it's obviously been barcoding and consolidating up here for this breakout, but it is now more of a momentum name, and it's a great day trading vehicle. Now, obviously, when you find a range like this, you start buying off of 19s, you wait for a breakout of 21, and now you're actually getting that break. So this has to be on the radar here today. Ford super strong. I like GM too, and GM's been a great one, but for pure momentum play, it's really been all about Ford, up another 8% today. You just can't say enough about what they're doing here. I'm not a big truck guy, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you whether you should like the F1, the 150 or the Silverado. As a matter of fact, Mary Barr are actually taking some shots at the F-150 because GM has their own platform, right? Instead of just using the old conventional vehicle platform, they have a specific EV platform in GM. They're a little bit more, to me, all in because GM's going fully electric without any of the midpoint hybrids, which makes them an interesting play. But Ford, the banger through 21, I hope somebody's got it long because they're going nuts here today. And did you end up taking the GameStop short?
No. Did it break?
Yeah. I mean, we
walked away from it.
Just to change the subject, but Arun and I were both sitting here at lunchtime, and we're like, oh yeah, there's a 150 short of GameStop. It was really choppy, like over and over again, just choppy on that break, but it kept testing lower highs, and there was a couple of rollovers here at like 151, 152 that we never got into, and it just spiked again. Yeah. I just noticed it now because I had the chart up. It spiked to 152 again and failed. So, sometimes you look at these patterns, and this is a day trading type of, like, that you want to short the pop into here, or, I mean, I guess if you long the bottom, the same thing's been working for you. It's just that these are random levels at the bottom. I kind of feel like you had this consolidation up here and then VWAP as well, which gives you some cover if you short in front of 152. So that's why I would look at that chart and say the short scalp makes a little bit more sense. But I guess neither one of us is in it, so we missed out.
No, but I am taking some profit, though. I've dumped my Microsoft longs. That's done. We're walking away with, I think, about like 50 cents or so on Microsoft. So we're completely out of that one there. I've also gotten half of my Meta short out. So we're walking away with about 70 cents on the first half, and I'll move the rest to just above 328. So if I end up losing, I'm probably going to lose like maybe 15 cents on the second portion. So I'll come out net positive. I just want to give it a chance to actually take out the low, that 326.30 something low. So oh no, I closed it. Okay, I'll open that back up. And that position is fine. Peloton, we're still managing. We've already got some out in front of 38 even. We're just going to let the rest go until 38.50. And Roku, well, we've still got Roku. That's $4.33 in the money. You see my bid. It's this green line across the screen here. That's way down there. So we're definitely waiting for that to come through. If it doesn't, if it gets back above 230, I'm done. So I'll walk away with like $1 and change, depending on the slippage. But for now, I'm short just in front of 232. So I can probably afford a little bit of slippage. But north of 230, I'll just dump it and probably walk away with $1.50 or so and change. That's assuming that I slip a little bit there. So I've got 3 shorts. I'm waiting on the features. Features are kind of just playing within the range. I'm not going to do a whole lot there. But I want to go back to the chat about a comment about Tupac.
Yeah.
The best one I heard the best one I read was, where was it? From Cereal Box. Arun looks like Tupac, like Count Chocula thinks he's a vampire. That is absolutely hilarious. And of course, that will come from a cereal box. So yeah, that was definitely one of those. I was like, yeah, you know what? I had to Google it. I'm like, maybe I'm missing what Tupac looks like. I'm like, no, I don't see it. Definitely not. So I don't know what you guys are seeing, but no. You know what? I do want to say one thing. Arun looks like Arun. That's it. Simple as that.
That's exactly what I would expect you to say. You know what's weird? It's like everyone has that person. It's like, oh yeah, you resemble that person, this person, or that person. I can't, as you pointed, like, until someone said Tupac, I had never even thought of it myself. And it's true, like, I've never really been like, oh yeah, you kind of look like that guy. We actually found a CEO back in the day, and I wish I remembered the name. We were, for whatever reason, there was some random CEO as we were doing a story way back that looked exactly like Brendan. I can't remember who it was. I don't know, maybe he does. I get Don Cheadle all the time, which is kind of weird because I don't think I look like Don Cheadle. I wish I could pull it off at the bars and whatnot, and then I'd be able to be like, hey man, I'm War Machine.
Yeah, no, I don't see it.
It doesn't work. Back to the markets here. This Sell Zed, because I'm going to call it Sell Zed. I don't know if we went over what the company name is. Apparently I have to pay for shorts 1/3 of a cent per share. Okay, like, I don't understand why it can't just be free if it's 1/3 of a cent per share. That's obviously very, very cheap, but it did make a push. I was looking for the $3 even because there's really nothing up here, and it just made a push to 285. One thing I will caution everybody on in this stock is, just quickly look here, like 3 cent spread, not a lot of size here and there. Oh my goodness! I just saw this super chat. So it's got a bit of a spread. So give it an extra 2 or 3 cents on your stop orders. I'm looking for $3 before I fade it, but we got a super chat here from John saying Arun looks like a discount Akon.
That was good. That was good. I love when people come out with like witty comments. That was good. I could not, like, you don't see me smile a whole lot when I'm trading, but I mean, my positions are doing just fine. so I don't have to focus on them. So that one got me there. I was like, wow, okay, good job, John. Because you don't get me smiling too much, but you got me on that one because that was really good.
Honestly, in fairness, Arun will whoop Khan's butt. You know that, right? Like, I'm telling you. There was a story, like we always joke around, it's like, yeah, Arun, like, well, big, strong guy and all that. At our old office, there was a day where we had to get like the carpet through. I'm going off topic, I apologize, guys. But we had this carpet we were getting replaced. Sean and I had our own floor, and Arun had an entire room to himself trading the futures, and he was sticking around because he was always the last guy to leave. So it's myself, Sean, and Arun just happened to be still working because we had to move this stupid heavy desk that we had in the office because they had to replace the carpet. And Sean and I couldn't move the damn thing. We're like, we're screwed. We got to get this out of here. And thank God Arun was working late because he basically, I want to say he did it himself, but if it wasn't for Arun, we would have been absolutely in trouble. So there you go. Ended up working out there. Sell Zed, it's about 15 cents away from coming to this top. There is some size in front of 3 even that I've just noticed. 30, 40,000 shares a level, 97s, 99. So I'm going to play off of that. Brendo?
Yeah, pretty impressive move so far for that one. We'll keep an eye on it. There's Justin. Hi, Justin. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Brendan?
Good, man. Good to have Justin Kozach back with us at Trader TV. Justin, Day Trade the World's marketing guy, going to talk a little bit about a few headlines that have popped up today in all things tech land, including new rules to come for the SPAC world.
Right. So the SEC chief is looking at new rules for companies using the SPAC instrument to go to market. We're seeing certainly a lot of these. SPACs kind of launched in the 1990s, but have really started to, we've certainly seen an uptick. 2021 alone, $166 billion raised in SPACs in comparison to 2020, where there was only 73. So lots happening there. But of course, these things aren't without controversy. The SEC is currently investigating DWAC and Trump's new social media company, as well as Lucid, for some looking to get some insight into how that SPAC came to be for them. So lots more on that story. Not surprising that they're going this route. That increased popularity in any financial instrument will always get the attention of the SEC, who is more than happy to look into any sort of misappropriation.
Yeah, it would be interesting, and we should come up with maybe for next week some data on deals that have actually gone through versus deals that have had to pay back, because the instrument itself is, you pay the $10 ticket fee, if you will. If a deal is not reached within the specified amount of time, you get your money back. So it would be interesting to kind of compare those 2 points.
Yeah, I could definitely look at that data, and we can talk about that next week for sure. So it's a great call.
Yeah, Spotify not really doing a heck of a lot here, but a new deal with Tinder, so you can figure out what kind of music the person likes off Tinder, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to figure out if your potential soulmate likes to listen to Scandinavian death metal, for example, if that's not your thing, or if it is. Interesting way to weed out potential soulmates or not potential soulmates. Not the first time that Spotify and Tinder have worked together. They've done some integrations in the past, but I think this one is kind of interesting. So, like I said earlier, I mean, if you're already on your phone, then why not look through their Tinder profile while you listen to some of their favorite music and figure out if that's the kind of person you want to hang out with?
Yeah, I was noticing on my phone yesterday, I think it was, we got the, what is it called? The Wrap, the year in review kind of thing. It's Wrapped, right. It's that time of year. So you get to see all the music that you listen to on Spotify this year. So yeah, Spotify.
Who was your favorite artist, by the way? I'm curious.
So funny story. We have a dog that stays at home. We put music on for our dog because that's the world I live in. So it was all about him in my 2021 Spotify Wrapped. What about you?
I am not ashamed to admit that Taylor Swift was my number one.
There you go.
So I'm a proud Swiftie. I'm happy to say that out loud. I'm sure I'm getting ripped apart in the comments right now.
Valeria beside me is very happy to hear that about you, Justin. Let's move on, shall we? Facebook, busy one today. We were just talking about the stock. Facebook giving you all kinds of opportunities. Tell us about WhatsApp and crypto.
Right. So WhatsApp launching a pilot project in the US where people can use the messaging tool to send money via their Novi wallet. So they've integrated their cryptocurrency wallet into WhatsApp, very similar to what they did with Facebook Messenger. I got it right this time. No fees for sending or receiving money. So certainly an interesting way to get people on board with sending money through mobile apps, and it looks like they may actually even integrate cryptocurrency into that as well. So interesting little play. Will be interesting to see how this one kind of shakes out over the next little while. But still a pilot project, certainly early days, but it looks like it will roll out in other places as well. So cryptocurrency at Facebook has kind of been a bit of a it's a project that's had its starts and stops. So the head of the project is leaving Facebook. So certainly a little bit of in limbo, but there are some new leadership kind of pushing that project forward. So it will be interesting to see how it moves forward going. As we get into 2022.
Yeah, the attempt at their own coin obviously failed miserably, or I guess they shelved that inevitably for Facebook. So we'll see what happens with WhatsApp. Do you want to talk about this better.com angle here? It seems to be continuing this week.
Yeah, better.com just they not having a good week. Their CEO today, the board of directors sent an email to the employees letting them know that effective immediately, the CEO will be taking a step back away from the company. He keeps getting raked over the coals. More and more seems to be coming out about their CEO Vishal Garg, who has accused some of their employees of being lazy and calling them stupid dolphins, I believe was the term that he had used at one point. So not a very nice person, it seems. So I certainly think the board of directors is trying to distance him from some of the criticism. But as these stories often go, it doesn't always end well. Sometimes CEOs are forced to resign. Travis Kalanick is a perfect example of that. Built a great company and then made a lot of missteps that eventually became public. So he had to kind of walk away. So who knows what's going to happen with Vishal Garg, but it seems the story is trending in that direction for sure.
Yeah, speaking of SPACs and the possibility of SPAC regulation to come, much needed. He is at Trader TV Justin on Twitter, guys. Go check him out. Join the conversation. Let us know what you would like to learn a little bit more about, and we'll provide you with that information on a daily basis. Thanks so much, Justin. Have a great weekend.
Yes, thanks, Brendan. You too, and I'll see you guys next week.
Sounds good. Lots of different stories, lots of different headlines kind of running the market today, guys. But as you were saying, Facebook, pretty interesting trade today. Taylor
Swift is a surprise to me. I did not see that one coming. I'm a little shocked there, but to each their own for sure. One update. I know we're going to go to Facebook in a second because I know you're in that trade. I think you got a bit of an out there, but I did get first level 275 there on CELZ. CELZ was what I'm calling it. I tried to pick it up 95, 96. It got to 95 and started turning. There was size at 97. So on the way down on that wick fail, I was able to get some shares there at 85, some 86s as well, but average price 85, and then we'll see if it can not even get back to VWAP, but just like 260s down here. I don't want it taking out the high of the day. It breaks 3, I'm going to be out. BKKT is continuing to work. I'm getting close to the notion of maybe putting a trail in the last of that Apple trade, but and as I'm watching the futures roll over, Apple's at the top, and I see your Facebook starting to come back down too.
Yeah, I've taken some out of Facebook already, right in front of this 327. We're going to hold the rest, see if 328 breaks. I just want to see the low get taken out before I dump all of it. So we'll just trail this out. We'll leave it alone. Going back to what Justin was saying, I was still slightly perplexed by the stupid dolphins, because I'm like, aren't dolphins really smart?
They are smart.
That's why I'm just like, I might be missing something here. I mean, maybe I'm too old to understand what the new slurs are or code is, but dolphins are pretty smart. So I don't know if that's a smart way to go about calling your employees stupid? I don't know. But definitely, going back to Facebook, we're going to leave it alone, let it work. One big thing, though, I got to keep an eye on Roku because, because Roku's so thin that if it wants to take the lows out, it can go very quickly. So we're going to leave it alone, but keep an eye on this. 230, we get above 230, I'm done. But if we keep on going, I got a bid down there close to 221 and change. We're going to see if we can get that. If we can't, or even if we fail the low, which if I move it to this chart, Roku the low is 225.71. So if we fail below there, so if we get there and trade to like 225 and then come right back, I might just dump half there, depending on how it snaps back. But I'm definitely going to keep an eye on this. You can see this on the level 2 here. It's very thin. It's got an 19 cent spread right now. It's done 5 million shares, and there isn't a whole lot in terms of volume. So definitely something to keep an eye on. There's like, I've never seen this before. Why are there like 1 share, 2 share bids here? That's,
What's that?
yeah, this is Roku, and this is not set, this is like actual absolute shares. It's like 1 and 2s.
Really?
Yeah, this is random.
That's weird.
Okay, I normally don't see 1s and 2s everywhere, but Roku is showing some very, very low sizes in front of this 227. We'll see if that gets taken out. And how's that Microsoft dump? Because I took it out. Okay, it's pretty much where I got out. I got out just underneath 340 as it was coming back in. It looks like it went a little bit, maybe to 339.60 or so, and then is now coming back to 340. So there really isn't a whole lot, but I am noticing futures coming off a little bit here. Still within the top end of the range, still within that 85, 90 area. This is the March contract, so the new level is 47.05, but we are going to keep an eye on this. Maybe there's a trade there going into the close. We've got about, what, an hour left? 50 minutes before we get an imbalance, an hour before this the stock market closes, hour 15 before the futures market closes. So there is a little bit of time there to trade the futures after the market actually closes. So we'll keep an eye on the futures. Maybe there's a trade there. I just really want to watch Roku though, because of the fact that this is not something normally I see, these 1s, 2s, and 5s. There's a lot of very low size orders coming in on Roku. So definitely something to keep an eye on, especially if I need to get out.
Yeah, and speaking of getting out, this is going to happen in real time. Come on, go. You're going to see it. Well, maybe not. 3 even on CELZ. Hopefully you guys saw that in the level too. 3 even just went down to 100 shares. Mine aren't absolute shares. I have 100 lots here. So when you see like a 1, that is actually 100 shares, not 1 share. But it's when it breaks that 3 even, that's my stop is going to trigger and I'm going to get out. But you just saw it get chewed up, like all like 20 or 30,000 shares and another rejection. I shorted in front of it, reloaded. I got bids, like I said, all the way down to 260. So if that's another rejection at 3 even, this will work out for me. If not, then it looks like we'll get stopped out on a break of 3. Apple, which I just finished saying that I was looking to get trailed out on Apple. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like I saw things coming back down. Facebook gave you an out. Futures were curling a bit. And I was starting to think about it. Yeah, I'll just trail it out here, 177.50. And then we break the high. We break the high. Now we're looking to take out that 178 level finally. So I guess I'm not going to put the trail in. We'll just wait around for this. I think I'll give it some time. We have an hour to go until the close. Some of you guys were asking when I guess you would have seen Prad walk past and was like, is Prad coming or is Prad going? Prad went to go get, I said it in the chat, he went to go get provisions for the office poker night, which I tried to get. Rune, he doesn't want to stick around and play poker with us, but that's fine. Poker and trading go well together, I happen to think, so should be a heck of a lot of fun. We haven't had one in a while, obviously because of COVID, but should be a lot of fun to be able to get out there and take Prad's money.
I think everybody's eyeing Prad's money. I think that's the first target for everybody.
Easy.
So
Oh, just kidding.
this might be bad for Prad when you ask him about it on Monday when you guys or when he does his show, because it might be a bad situation because it seems like there's about 10 players, and everybody's eyeing Prad's money as if it's free. So we'll see how that goes. But
Isn't it though?
Isn't it though? Going back to Roku, someone said, oh, it's an iceberg, but I'm pretty sure iceberg minimums are 100 shares. You can't just put 1 and iceberg the rest.
No, you cannot use an iceberg order unless your minimum display is 100.
Yeah, okay, so it can't be iceberg then. It has to be actual individuals or small retail orders coming in, which shows the interest in Roku, right? It just shows absolute interest in Roku if these orders are 5 shares, 10 shares, coming in here. So it's interesting to watch Roku move around. It's moved a lot, quite a bit here. $3, no, not 3%, 3 and change, and close to $8 down today. So definitely something to keep an eye on. We're going to keep an eye on Roku. I looked at the tape too. Definitely it's not iceberg because I would see a lot more going through if that was iceberged in. For anyone who doesn't know what iceberg is, it's the ability to display, say, 100 shares, but then behind that 100 shares, you can put 10,000. And if you're ever wondering why a single level won't break, but there's so many prints on the tape, is because the order's been iceberg, which means you never know how much how large the iceberg is behind. So you don't only ever see 100 shares in front. So you only see 100, but you see thousands going off.
Yeah.
That's because it's an iceberg order, which means they've hidden the rest. And here at Day Trade the World, we have access to doing that as well. We also have dark pools, so we can send orders to dark pools if we need to. We can actually iceberg some orders if we need to, depending on the type of stock we're dealing with. Some stocks like this, when Roku's moving and you need to start dumping some shares and you're going to affect the ability, that's when you start using iceberg, right? People don't know. Now, people aren't going to be scared of what they don't know. So you put a little bit out there, they start hitting it, and then you get your shares quietly. And sometimes stealth is the way to go, especially in these high spread, not illiquid, but it is somewhat thin on Roku. It's done 5 million shares, but getting in and out of more than, I want to say, 500, 600 shares is going to be tough because you would have to cross multiple levels to get it. You're probably going to take out like 5, 6 levels to get your shares. If you're doing 500, 600 shares, if you're doing more, then obviously you're going to need to cross more. For now, though, we're keeping an eye on Peloton. Peloton, again, the stop on this is north of 38.50. I've got $2.36 in the money. We're going to leave that alone. We've already dumped half in front of 38, so this is just the rest of it riding. Facebook is bouncing around. I've moved the trail stop just north of 328, so if I'm going to lose 15 cents. I've already made a decent chunk, so I'm still going to be net positive by a lot on that. And then Roku, $4.67. We just want to see the low. Just show me the low, 225.71. If you take it out, come back. I'll know what to do. If you take it out and keep going, great. I just don't want it to snap back now, just because I want to see what the low contains.
Yeah. And there's a question from Leon here, and it's a good one. And we never want people to get this twisted, right? Because we've said before that you should focus on sometimes focus on 1 or 2 stocks that you're trading, or one. And the question was, how do you focus on trading multiple positions, reading and answering the chat, talking with Arun and Brendan? So I'll give you the first stock and the one that I actually have to really focus on, CELZ, which is currently moving. I'm counter trend. I have a stop at 3 even. All I'm trying to do is make sure, like when I was looking for a re-entry point at 3, now I have an automatic stop. That's why my hands are off the keys, and I'm just going to stop out at 3 even here. But when I was looking to get into it here off of 3 even, that's the only position that I'm concerned about executing in the moment. And then when I get it, putting my bids out there. From then, it's just putting a stop order. Now, if I wasn't using a stop order, it's a different story. I couldn't have been hands off the keys. But everything else you see on my board right now, and this is usually the case. Like Apple, this is a trade from this morning where I've gotten the bottom here. I've been riding, taking some profit out in front of 77. And then again, I'm just watching it work in the money. Peloton is also very similar. There's not a heck of a lot to do with the Peloton. My last out was back at 38. I took a couple of scalps here in the morning, 39.50 and 39. And now I'm looking to see if it can take out the low and hold it into the close. The last position is BKKT, which, like CELZ, is a mover, but it's off of lower highs, so the trend is a bit with me. It's retested that support, broken VWAP again, so it is working in the money as well. It's not really threatening me with anything. And the other thing you'll also notice too is like a lot of times you'll catch me and I'm talking and I'm doing this because I'm actually, I'm looking at the level 2s that I'm executing off of and then talking to you guys. And as to how we can do that and talk to you, well, before we came to YouTube, Day Trader the World, it was myself and Sean. It was an internal, at Day Trader the World broadcast where essentially it was just going out to the offices for the purpose of teaching, teaching traders. And it was rough, man. I like to think I've watched back some of it. I like to think that I sucked, and not just kind of sucked. It was really hard because every now and then we'd be talking. And then it's I'm have a thought, and then I'd go over to trade something, and I'd forget that I need to still be speaking, and then Sean would come in and fill in for me. Now we just have an ebb and a flow. I know that if I'm looking for symbols here or there, I'm busy. Arun knows to stretch. Sean knows a little bit. And if I know Arun's in something and it's moving into him, I'll just start talking a little bit longer. And I know I've got my position settled in as well. So it comes with, anything, it comes with experience. I've actually noticed, and I found this out on the show, if in the morning, when we're talking on the morning show and sort of discussing our trades and going over things, and I have more than 5 or 6 positions, even if the profile on some of them is get in 1 stop, and I only have 1 or 2 that you have to actively manage. If I have more than 6, it's kaputs. I'm always screwing things up. It's that's the point at which I'm more likely to make a keystroke error. I'm definitely likely to misread a chart and then put a stop at an incorrect level. I just know that that's my limit. However, before I was doing this, I kind of could stretch it a little bit further than that. So you do make those kind of adjustments. It's not as if it's an easy thing to do. And like anything else, the only person if you couldn't guess this, who on our team had professional broadcast experience before, if you couldn't have guessed that it was Brendan, I mean, it's sort of obvious. The rest of us are kind of doing it on the fly. Speaking of which, Brendo?
I missed that completely. Love, guys. Southwest, just ticking back to the downside here. There was a negative note this morning on the entire airline group, pointing to them being very susceptible to higher prices and inflation. We broke that low, that last little pivot on the daily chart there. about to, or looking at least like it might want to test day lows here. Yeah, 4% for Southwest today.
Airlines.
Oh,
You know, when airlines get hot, I always look at Boeing, just because I like the way Boeing trades. It's just one of those things. And Boeing would have been a great trade around that 205 mark earlier today. The only reason you would hesitate is because of the support you're seeing back from the 6th or the 7th of December. But definitely keep an eye on Boeing because it has marked off some interesting levels. 207 is now a nice little resistance level that you can work with, pretty much from 205 going up to 207. So definitely keep an eye on airlines. I know somebody in the chat was talking about AAL earlier. I actually was meaning to get around to that. It's a NASDAQ. Again, one of those names that just trips you out. AAL, NASDAQ name. It's an airline in a NASDAQ index. Or not index, but market. Anyways, AAL to the, it's ranging. It's completely stuck in a range. It needs to break 1750 to the downside, but even then, if it breaks 1750, you've got some previous support or resistance from the 3rd and the 2nd of December here around that 1740, 1735 area. So even if it breaks 1750, there might be some slippage there, so just keep an eye on that. But it is absolutely stuck in a range. Wait for it to break out, because it's going to be tough to trade inside the range when the range is like $1 and change, right? If it was a wide range, you might be able to catch moves, but when it's this tight of a range, it's kind of tough, like to actually just catch a trade. So definitely one of those names that is just kind of like, if you're invested in it, it's patience, right? You're just going to have to wait it out and see at what point does it do its breakout. But it's tough, man. When stocks go into a range, you got to have other things ready to go. And AAL is definitely in that range. So maybe trade something else that is moving, like maybe what Brendan was talking about was Love, Southwest. And then you also have Delta, DAL as well. So other names that could be moving well that, while AAL is trying to figure out what it wants to do, let's take a quick look at Delta. It is down 0.87% and down 34 cents. See, Delta's got a much larger range, not even a range. It's also in a range, but the range is wider, right? This is like $39.80 to $40, and the bottom is like $37.50. So $2.50 versus the $1 range on AAL. So it's a matter of which one do you want to trade if you do want to trade it. You're stuck in a range though, so just be careful on how you decide to go about kind of playing this game. While I look at Facebook, I'm like, crap, it's moving back up. So 327 is going to hold, probably going to double bottom. I guess I should probably walk away from this while I still have a few pennies in the money. Okay, I'll just dump this one when I get a chance.
Oh, just I want to come quickly back to this sell Z. So every now and then there's like a level, and it's not every now and then. This happens a lot, right? Like you have when a parabolic move happens, and I never want to chase the top, and I'm always looking for a resistance level to short. And again, all I can do is come back to the 3rd and look at that $3 level. Sometimes the reversals are just something you have to work yourself into, trying to get better at doing that. Obviously, the 3 break, if it's a good enough stop level, sometimes it's a good breakout level too, and it's not having, I don't really have a terribly good excuse to not have just scalped that from like 3 to 310. Like nothing else is really moving, except for some things to the downside here. Apple, for like 3 or 4 times, Apple's now taken 178 and it's just going back and forth. So it's working, it's just not really working, I want to say. It's hard to say when a stock is done this good. It's $3 in the money, and I'm not happy enough with the performance. But Robinhood just made a fresh it's been making all-time lows all day here, but just another one through $20. Previous low was about $20.50. They're just getting, woodshedded is, I guess it's a horrible pun because obviously a lot of things have been woodshedded that you know who owns, but 19.99 sits on the offer right now. I kind of think this could be low-hanging fruit to see if it can hold this break. It actually went down in 1980. You're seeing it push back into 20. So if it fails to get through 20, it could just be a simple short back down through 20 even. So Robinhood continuously under pressure here. That sells Ed. It's weird. Like it doesn't have tremendous volume when I'm watching the tape, but it's still managing to hold up pretty nicely. So I'm not chasing the move, certainly on sell Z. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, it should have been a reversal. It should have been a reversal for $3. When you see a nice coil up like that and the reentry to the short doesn't work, like it pulled back in off of 3, but then put in this high here at 85, which is the original short price. And a lot of times when that's the case, that's where the liquidity was on the pullback the first time, right around 85, and that holds as support. That's just cleanly holding that trend, right? And when you're in the short, sometimes you don't notice something like that, and it makes it a clean $3 breakout, which you're seeing now. Look at it hold this steep trend, but it's like the volume is not really screaming. Like, it doesn't look like something. Why is it still on LUV here? Apologies, guys. Still on LUV. There we go. Flip it. It doesn't look like something which is breaking out and sustaining this move. It's kind of slowly churning to the upside here. So very, very strong name. I just don't like the idea of chasing it. I'll look at the quarters again, maybe for a short. GameStop, by the way, back to that 152.
Of course it is, but we're not trading GameStop. Still in the day for that move.
Why not?
I'm not playing that game. William Craig, talking about AAL, said he's up big, or he's green on the day. Scalping AAL, that is impressive. I'm always impressed by like scalpers that can play within a tight range because I just can't see it. But that goes to show what this market is, right? It's for everybody. You can trade however you want to trade as long as you have a decent strategy. And for me, I may not be able to see the way that, say, William did, but if he's green, that's all that matters, right? Everyone sees things differently, and make money as much as you can, however you want to do it. Just have a smart idea in front of you. But with that being said, Greg, or with that being said, William, if you're green and you killed a bottle of wine, it's probably a good time to call it a day. I think you're going to feel that for sure at some point. Don't want to make it's too easy to make decisions when you're into a heavy bottle of wine there. So maybe walking away might be the right time, especially going to the final 45 minutes. We've got imbalances coming out in about half an hour for 35 minutes or so. So there could be a lot happening, and it's also somewhat quiet. I tend to find that these rollover days are quiet. The fact that the market's in a range earlier today, or for the most part today, the bottom is on the March contract, the bottom is 55. The high is almost 4,700, which is a decent, it's 45 points, but it depends on how 45 points moves. In this market, 45 points within the range is still a range. So just be smart about how you trade inside the range if you can make it happen. What did I just pick up? Oh, no.
What'd you get?
Oh.
I'm just while you manage that, I'm adjusting a stop on BKKT here because it's now, look, it's back and broken 14 even, and so now that it's below this range again, I just want to make sure I'm locking in some profit. I don't want to sort of crushing back in through VWAP, so I'll put it just above that 30 mark there, and then see if we can't make sure that we stay profitable. Look, it can't turn negative because I have already taken profit on it, but it's more along the lines of preserving it. I want to still hold on to this in case it continues to flush. The same way I want to hold on to Apple long as a rally. Leon asked a question. I think it was a couple of times someone was asking, and maybe Leon, you just said, talk about experience on trading during market crashes like 08 and 2020. Well, interestingly enough, like you would have seen us trade and talk about 2020, which was nothing like 2008, because the weird thing, and maybe my experience is a little bit different in 2000, because every day trader, look, if you traded in the last 20 years, is a decent chance that 2008 was your biggest year. For most traders I know, that was like that time, like you just needed to be alive, is the way we looked at it. You had to be alive, you had to be trading the market, and then you were just making money is how it worked. But it wasn't necessarily all about the short. As weird as you might think, there was lots of trouble getting locates for traders. So what ended up happening a lot of times is you'd have these big time flush days, and a lot of the real big cap names, like sometimes the banks, like a Citigroup or whatnot, would get depressed and they'd get to an even dollar level, and then the best trade was you'd see these just ridiculous institutional buy orders sit on the bid, and they'd be gigantic. And so you were just waiting for it to capitulate. The shorting worked too as well, but you'd wait till it capitulated. And then sometimes you're just buying in front of an even level at 1, 2, 3, and then like scalping 10 cents and holding 25 and 50 and doing it for size. And it was like, and it would work over and over again. And then you just make sure you weren't left holding the bag when that order got filled to the downside. And that was a lot of what was working in 08. So you didn't even have to be killing it on the short back then. So that's when people say it was easy to make money, it's because you really could do it either way. You could leverage up because things were at depressed prices, so they were cheaper and you could take more shares. It was just an interesting time to day trade. But the truth of the matter is, you had to be alive. If you blew out your account in 07, you didn't get to make your bones in 08. And it's the same thing when COVID came around. Like, you just want to make sure, in order to make it, you got to be there. you have to have a live account, you have to have some dry powder, you have to have some risk to work with. That's what we talk about building a bankroll. That's why the other day there was a conversation we had about sort of Pratt and moving out and this and that. And I said openly that I lived at home longer than all of my friends because I understood that if my profession was going to be making a commission trading, that I had to have a bankroll. And that meant that I had to be pretty frugal, cheap, whatever you wanted to call it, for a few years while I built that up if I wanted to do this as a career. And there's just no way around that. So everybody's situation is different. I happen to be young at the time. And if you can leverage that, go ahead and do it. So anyways, that's just my rant. I don't want to go on to it too long there. But I wish Apple would make its move here. There was another question about, are we going to see some short covering close going into this Friday? I'm kind of hoping it doesn't for Apple's sake. It'd be nice. It would be nice if it could continue to rally, but maybe that's a question for you, Arun.
Yeah, short covering. Well, that would imply that there are shorts on the table here, but the problem is that the market's already bounced. See, if there was a downward move and we were, the high is 90, 46.90 or so, and we kept kind of dragging down, then I'd be worried about some profit taking or some covering of shorts. But the fact that this market has already rebounded quite well and attempted a few more moves down, we just went as low as high as 86, all the way down to 76, then we hit 92, went as low as 80 and change. The market's got strength. I'm not sure this market is ready for a short covering rally because I'm not sure how many shorts are left on the table that would rush to the exit. If anything, they may go after one of the range locations. So could they take the top off? Yes, but would that be based on short covering? I mean, if you're short here, odds are you're not going to cover and screw yourself over going into the Friday. If anything, the longs are going to try to maybe go for the range top. Maybe that's what you meant, that there's going to be a rally towards one of the range edges, which could happen. I've seen it happen before, especially going into a weekend. As we sit about 15 points from the top end of the range, it's entirely possible that we do attack the top end of the range. But I don't think that's going to come from short covering. If anything, that's going to be a squeeze attempt on any shorts that are still on the table, or anyone even that's actually willing to step into this market is in a range that's established. So if people are picking up longs on the futures here, 46.70 going on down, it's entirely possible that once the range goes or the 4,700 goes, you might see a pickup in activity, and we're only 10 points away. So as we get closer to these imbalances coming out, and we're about 10 points away from 4,700, and only 5 points past that is where the high is, it's entirely possible that we go for the top end of the range. And I feel like that's probably what you meant, like not necessarily short covering, just a rally at the end of the day. Yeah, I've seen it happen before, especially when we're this close to the top end of the range. The issue that I was having when Neil took over was that I accidentally went long on Facebook. I was trying to send something else, and I'm like, wait, what? What did I get? I went long on Facebook. I dumped it, though. I immediately dumped it. Would it be in the money? Yeah, it'd be like 20, 30 cents in the money right now. But again, that's not my position. That's not my trade. It double bottomed. I got out of my short. I had no reason to go long just yet. So I just immediately cut the trade. I got out where I got in, and I only paid the fees on that, but I am out of that. And we're just waiting on Roku, which I do have to get under control because Roku refuses to go for that low. Every time I think they're going to go for the low, they refuse to go for that low. So I may have to start dumping some on Roku.
That position is chilling, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's 432, but this is Roku, though. Look at it. It's like 16 cents on the spread, and there's next to no volume if I needed to get out. So I definitely have to get that under control. And then the one that is chilling, though, is Peloton. Yeah. I think both of us have this one. You still have yours, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I think we can hold probably still close.
Yeah, I want to see what the imbalances on Peloton are before I decide to dump this. For Roku, though, I'm thinking of getting some out before we can get close to the imbalance.
And just coming back to Apple, the good thing about this Apple is it keeps on getting to like 178.20, like breaking 178, but then it's putting in higher lows during this move. Of course, like literally the second I said it, it's going to break this trend of higher lows because obviously that's what it's going to do. But once it cracks through this 20s and gets through 25, I think I'll put a trailing stop at 178 even, just because it is forming a bit of a wedge here. And I do want to cover this. Apple I want to cover before the imbalances come out for sure. Brendo?
VSTA, just checking on this Vista, guys. 48% here on the day, but huge volume just coming in as we speak. So broke 4 there, trying to rip up to 450 on this VSTA.
Vista, you say, going absolutely nuts here. It's got to halt at some point, right? It's up 30. No, it should have halted already.
Why didn't it?
That's a good question.
Why didn't it hold?
Wait, in the final hour, is it a 20%?
No, in the rule,
right?
it's the same rules. Again, like we're both just sort of curious as to, and then you know what? Actually, as I look at this, is a 1 minute chart because that's I mean, like this kind of barcoded.
We should
that's
be
like 3
close
minutes.
though.
No, but the bands are going to reset. So when it consolidated here at 410, but if it breaks, it just go in 460.
Yeah, it's at 460. It should be halting.
It should be halting probably on if it breaks the high of the day now quickly. You'd think it would be halting to the upside. I'm debating whether I should go in and try to pay for shorts for this with only half an hour to go. That's a monster move late in the day. It was doing absolutely no volume. And a lot of times when you see that, like, okay, so it's already made a low, consolidation break, broke the 50 period. Yeah, that's a super strong move. Like, I guess if it had been doing volume earlier, it'd be all over the radar for like that 350 level. And this just could be like that's a huge momentum play. Oh my goodness, that 350 that you saw, the 50 period, like look at it just barcoding in front of it all day long. And then when the volume picks up, again, you need to catch that signal. And then it's a good thing Brendan brought it to your attention. Like that's a great trade. It's like a 385 with a stop at the 350. You're risking 35 cents. And then you have essentially, in terms of upside there, you really don't have anything on the daily until you get to that 450 or like $5 where it does sit right now. I'm going to check on a quote. Because if it's really, really expensive shorts, then there's just no point paying for them with 35 minutes left. But if it's like 1 cent a share, 3 cents a share, then it certainly makes sense. Someone asked about Roblox, so as I go do that, when I'm done.
I actually took Roblox earlier.
You traded Roblox today?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So I can definitely talk about Roblox. We had this trade. It was the long trade off the open, or before the open, and then we got out half near the top, and then it kind of just fell off here. Right here. Here's the trade. We were long right there. Around 118, we got out some at 121 and change right into the resistance level, and then we dumped the rest as it broke 119. So it was like a nice little $3 winner on the first half, and then $1 or so, less than $1 or so on the second half. And then we just completely walked away from this trade. What are the levels? When I went long on 118, 116 was the level that I was working with. So until 112 goes, that's still in play. We can still find a trade with that level in mind. We just got to figure out where, though. Right now, we're sitting in some support around 114, 115. Again, there's resistance now based on the way it was trading earlier today. After it kind of fell off that 121, we were kind of just like, okay, well, we let this go. But now there's 117 building, 116 there. So we kind of have to get back into that 118 and find some support before I decide to go for the long. But it's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, Roblox has provided a ton of opportunity, especially in the last couple of days here. You see the rally on the 8th from 114 all the way to 124, and then you see the flip side trade, which is a short of 122 going all the way down to 117 yesterday, and then today we kind of just like worked inside those two levels. So there's definitely a trade. It's definitely tradable. So it's something to keep in mind as we actually go forward. Roku, I've already dumped some here on Roku. Just I can't even remember the price that I got out. It was maybe 70 or something like that. 227.70. I'm long at 231.96. So I'm making like $4.20 something cents on the first half, and we're just going to trail the rest out. Depending on how it moves going into an imbalance, I may or may not hold for the imbalance. Obviously, when a stock looks like this, where is that? Roku. Roku's a NASDAQ stock. When a stock looks like this, if an imbalance comes out buy side, it's going to run me over. So I need to get myself into a small enough of a position that I don't have to worry about that issue. So we're going to have to leave it as is for now. We've still got 20 minutes before the imbalance, or 25 minutes before the imbalances come out. So we're going to have to wait for this to kind of figure itself out. And hopefully Peloton, I'm holding through that imbalance. I want to know if it's a sell side imbalance. We are going to ride this thing all the way until 4 o'clock. I might even throw the order on the close and just get out on the official closing price instead of bothering to kind of bid my way out of it. Just because if it's a negative imbalance, it could be quite the mover to the downside, especially the fact that it's gone down 7% on the day. So acceleration could be in effect there. Where obviously we dumped the Facebook trade, and we've still got Roku, which is 428. So pretty much where I got out on the rest of my position on Roku. We're just gonna keep an eye on this. That's it.
Well, I'll do this one. And again, now thank you guys for this Sigma, this SGMA. Someone was saying SGMA squeezing. I see it's only like 2% short. The float's only $3 million on SGMA. I think that's really the story. And again, it's just they had an earnings update, and look, it just volume picked up on a volume spike there. So I'm not sure what actually ended up causing that spike, but Brendan brought this one to our attention. As for the other name, and I know we just went over, I think it was, why am I already forgetting it? I'm already forgetting the last thing. We were just talking about that other small cap that ran. But it was actually restricted in our system, so I couldn't trade it, couldn't pay for shorts. But SGMA quickly took a 14 retrace just for a scalp trade of 25 and then the 50s because already had missed out on the move. I just had to quickly confirm that you're into some air in the daily chart there. And again, I mean, the 15 is going to say the same thing. So you are up to some new levels. That's why I'm just going in, out very, very quickly. Just evens to quarters, evens to 50 even. If it pulls back in, you want to see if 13, the previous high, can hold. That'd be a great place to catch a bounce. This is the mover. It looks like it's going to be an interesting one and definitely a good one. But SGMA, I wouldn't have necessarily noticed that last move unless you guys have pointed out in the chat. So thank you again for being the best community out there. Riding with both Apple and Peloton going into the close, although we do have to be flat at the end of the day. Like, we can't hold this short on Peloton, which, don't get me wrong, like when you see the momentum on this to the downside, it's not as if like there's just not much holding this up. Like, it's a decent chance you come in on Monday and this could be, testing 35. It's not much we can do about that here, but at the end of the day, I want to hold on to it as long as possible. Thank goodness we didn't try to fight GameStop because GameStop just made a hard right turn off of 148 twice here. And a 150 break happened. It took out the low at 151 from yesterday, then 150 even. But that's 148 once, that's 148 twice. GameStop just caught itself a bit of a bid. Yes, the pop and fade has been gold 2 days in a row. Did not have it today, did have it yesterday. When Monday comes in, if I'm not at least trying to look at a fail breakout on GameStop, then I don't know what the heck I'm doing, because this is going to give you, look at that wick, man. It's going to give you that big failure. Trap the longs. And then fail the rest of the day. Trap the longs, then fail the rest of the day through 160 here on GameStop. Like I said, I had like 5 or 6 things I was looking at the open. Hard to be in everything, but you really, really do want to sometimes. GameStop, though, like I said, catching a bit of a bid here off 154. As I look back over at that SELZ, which was the other name that was breaking to the upside. Yeah, there's your pullback. I thought it would be 3. That's because it was 3 even. 325, the next quarter up. And there's your flush. So at the end of the day, sometimes you're right. A lot of times you can be wrong. Was wrong about the turn there. Got stopped out, didn't reverse. And now CELZ, I want to say SELZ for some reason. CELZ not working out for myself and didn't catch the top there at 25s. Hopefully the longs took some profits. Make sure you pay yourself on moves like this, because when they come back, they fall pretty hard. Miss V.
Hey Neil, just 30 minutes left until the end of this trading week, and just 30 minutes left for us to increase the like amount. Team, it's officially like o'clock. We have 2,600 people watching, and we would really appreciate if you support the community and smash the like button. Back to you, Neil.
No word of a lie. At the exact moment Valeria was doing that, it was at 419. So whoever hit, like whichever one of you guys like was the first to hit it, you got to be like number 420. I just happened to check because she mentioned it. And it's like 419. There's a decent chance, it's Friday, man. There's a decent chance that whoever, if you're watching and you saw like 419, who wouldn't want to be 420? It's like 1 or 420. Like, that's probably the only two that matter there. But yeah, thank you very much. I actually didn't notice that. But got a Rune here. He's kicking butt. He's got the Batman shirt on, which is pretty cool. Always casual. That's how you know. Like a Rune, I probably haven't said this in a while, but one of the actual features of sitting as a risk manager as well, over the years, you get to watch the floor and traders in position while also understanding like what's their risk level. And you'd see some traders and you could tell it's like, if they were in this Apple position, let's imagine in the morning, and I'll show you the chart here. When Apple was dipping down into 175 and trying to hold a low, and you're in position, like you'd see some guys and it's like, you're like this, and you can see kind of like the change in their face and in the stress. And then when it goes in the money, you see them all relaxed. With a Rune, to be perfectly honest, you couldn't tell. And what would be interesting is like I would see like the difference between a Rune when he's flat and doing nothing, or position is deep in the money, or like way against. It's just like he's a robot. He's literally a robot. So sometimes you can tell, sometimes you can't. It doesn't mean that traders can't be emotional or whatnot, but sometimes having them in control can be a big deal. It's now 3:32, so it doesn't matter. Apple doesn't want to go here. So I'm going to put that trail in. I'll drop it to like 177.85 or so. It's just whatever this wick bottom happens to be, because it's late enough in the day that we've given it some room to run, but I want to make sure I'm covered on the back end of this. So if it does break this low, fair enough, I'll just be out. We'll take it, like 250, 275 on the last of the trade. If it breaks out the high, we'll hold it as long as we can. The market is going for us here, or for me anyways, for the Apple trade. You're seeing the NASDAQ try to test the 16.3, but imbalances are going to be coming out and don't want to miss out on that move. And man, should we have gone long in GameStop.
Right? At this point, what do you do? Right? Roku's bouncing back a little bit. That's why I dumped a little bit. I was concerned of what was happening around the lows. So we're going to wait a little bit more before I have to make a decision, because I do have to make a decision on whether I want to hold this for the imbalance or not. It's all a matter of, do I have the volume to deal with to get it out if the imbalance were to come positive. Now, if it were to come negative, obviously it helps your case, but do you take that gamble is the question. So we'll leave it a little bit more. I've got about 15 minutes to make a decision before I have to dump it. Peloton, it's not even a question. That's being held regardless of what happens. Somebody was asking, is Arun playing poker tonight? He is not. What Arun is doing is he's going, I've got a birthday dinner to get to at an Italian restaurant. So me, I'm going to be, I've got a date with an octopus that's going to be grilled. I've got a pizza coming. I'm actually going to order, just to put things in perspective, I'm getting 2 mains, not just 1 main. I'm getting 2 different mains and probably some dessert, because I love tiramisu as well. So I've got a date with some food later on in my day. So definitely something to look forward to for the rest of my night as these guys try to stab each other and take their money.
Hey man, you got to eat. I got nothing against it. It's just we don't usually have a lot of poker nights here, so it's good to have.
True.
Someone just asking Sean back tomorrow. Sean's taking Monday off as well, so Arun's going to be stepping in as well on Monday morning. I was just asked an interesting question. It's like, what do you do when I tell people that I'm like a day trader? Like, what kind of a response do you get? As you could probably guess, a lot of times when someone meets you for the first time, it's like, oh, what should I buy in the market? It's like the first thing they ask. It's like, you try to be polite about it. It's like, you get that enough. And sometimes it's like, oh, is that like gambling? Is it like playing poker? You get a lot of that. I find it's compared to maybe 15 or 20 years ago, it's a heck of a lot more understood and accepted. Also just got, before I go to GME, because it's running, man. Like that really? 148 double bottom. It's at 156 for crying out loud. Like, it's late. I don't know why I didn't like the 152 when it finally broke. I'll have to think that one over while we're playing poker over some refreshments. But Tesla here, I read it wrong this morning, and the level that I should have been paying more attention to, I had a scalp long win, then I lost when it retook that 990 level. And the level that I should have been paying attention to was that the previous 980 on Tesla, which was definitely valid. This 980 bottom from November, mid-November, that held up so nicely this morning. And I even said, like, I said to myself, after it broke 990, I was looking back to the lower high from the wipeout on Monday and thinking about this 970 level. And I'm like, oh, I would just buy back down in here. And instead, Tesla decides to hold that 980. What do I think about it? I think you're looking at a clear now 1020 to 1025 resistance. You can see on Monday, that's where it couldn't get through. That's where the consolidation was on Friday on the weekday. We've bounced off of that like 4 or 5 times here today. So, Tesla is still a bit in the penalty box until it breaks out. Every time Elon sells, it goes to the downside. I've never sold Tesla shares until it got to that and then rejected, whoops, wrong way, until it rejected that 1200 on the lower high. And that's when I sold some shares myself. I know Sean just recently sold some Tesla shares. You've broken and are now holding right around that 1020, which is the 50-period moving average. There's a lot of signs that a pullback is coming. It's been consistently relatively weak. Today is a notable exception as it is outpacing the market. So, if it does this another couple of times, I think I'd feel a little bit better about it. The good news is it holds that 50 period, breaks out at 1050. You're not going to care too much whether you bought at 1010 or you got back in at 1050. I just feel like the momentum is still to the downside for me on Tesla, although there's some signs of it making a bottom. Like I said, I sold some shares and haven't even thought about buying back in, where I would have been doing so, in like that 850 to 900 range. So that's just my thoughts. With about 20 minutes to go here, it has finally happened. We waited all show for it. for Apple to break that high. That's still a daily chart. To break that high and continue its churn to the upside. I don't really have an obvious target. If it goes to 179, I'll probably cover. I'm just looking to hold Apple to the close, looking to hold Peloton to see how far that does fall. And then hopefully they'll both sell at the high, buy back on Peloton at the low of the day. That'd be fantastic. Unlikely we'll get that perfect a result, though.
Yeah, so I've dumped my Roku position. It's getting a little thin. There's a little pullback. I don't like what's happening. I also don't want to hold for the imbalance. So we're going to take our $3.60-something and walk away on the second portion. We made like 4 something on the first portion. So we're done with Roku. That's done. We're just going to hold that Peloton position and see if we can actually get the nice little imbalance. Obviously, it's up to the market on what the imbalances are, right? We won't know ahead of time. So we just got to figure out what we're going to do after those numbers come out. Going back to what you were saying about trading, is it gambling, or people saying is it gambling or not? It's the way I look at it is that if you are trading, and that's the thing too, if you are trading emotionally, then yes, because you're constantly reacting to what is happening in front of you, you're winning, you're losing, whatever. Then you're there's no set plan in motion. But for me, if you have a plan in place, you know what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, and you execute almost like a robot. If you execute, then at that point, are you gambling the same way as if you were just kind of freewheeling it? I don't think so. Technically speaking, though, putting money on the line to get more money, I mean, you could argue the fact that that is considered gambling, but if you're counting cards, if you're counting cards, and that's what a strategy can be equated to, do you still put that in the same classification or category as if you're just going to a casino and just playing cards normally? It's different. There's some nuances there that I think a lot of people just choose to ignore when it comes to trading or even casinos. People who are professional gamblers, I would imagine, are playing the odds. And playing the odds and statistic. I don't know why I can say that. But if you're playing those games, it's a mathematically derived product, which for me, I look at my strategy as something that's math, right? I know what the probabilities are. I know if I'm losing at a certain rate, I know that I should run out of that at some point. It's just for me, it's a math game. I constantly say that it's just a math game. If I'm losing now, I'll be fine. So I know that 1, it builds you confidence, and 2, it just allows you to continue doing what you need to do as a trader, is just to execute your strategy. Big thing is building that strategy up to that point where you're confident that it's not just straight up gambling, that you actually have a plan in place and you're just executing what you need to do. So it's just one of those things where I don't see it as gambling, but I can see why other people would. And if they don't want to see it my way, that's perfectly fine. And if you want to put some money in the market, let me take it from you. I'm perfectly okay with doing that too, because you can gamble with me all day, every day, and I'll take your money. That's perfectly fine. So if that's how they want to see it, that's fine with me. But there's a game to be played inside the markets, and as long as you're educated and you kind of educate yourself, create your strategy, and just work whatever strategy you have to a point where it's just mathematically done, then you should be just fine as a trader. And that's what trading, I think, at the end of the day is. How do you think all these guys that make a ton of money trading, I'm talking like multi-billion-dollar hedge fund guys that are making a ton of money. I mean, part of it's mathematics. Obviously, there's going to be a component feel to it as well, an investment side of things. But from the trading side, there's going to be a mathematical approach to things, especially from their, what's the word? I can't even think of it. Their
from the quants?
Quants.
Yeah.
From their quants, yeah. So there's a component to that is in the market that you just have to deal with as well.
Yeah, but by the way, while this was happening, there was a great question about why didn't I short SGMA off of 15? And the answer was I actually was looking to try to do so, but I kind of thought as it broke off that level, there'd be a consolidation lower and a chance to get into position. And then it felt like an absolute rock. And then the 14 break is what we took. So I took the 14 to the downside. It looked like it was kind of fine. It was barcoding, consolidating maybe for another drop. And then this wick happened. It triggered a stop order. So I got stopped out on this. This wick didn't happen. It actually never broke a 14.30 even. So it only went about 30 pennies up here. But that wick up to 14.75 did stop me out because I had to stop at 50s. So I just kind of got back into it. I'm going to put the same stop back in. I'll use a different stop order that will not get triggered by that kind of a dark pool. But it is what it is. So now I have another stop in. And again, then my limit price up to 15. But if it breaks 14.50, I'm out. If it gets to 13.50, first target. So I'm into SGMA. There was a question about VSTA. And that's actually, when I was kind of forgetting which symbol we just talked about, it was VSTA. It's restricted in our system. So it previously had such low liquidity that it was on our restricted list. Now, I would have to put a ticket in to get it unblocked, and then I would have to go pay for shorts. Unlikely to have both those things happen. So to be honest, that is the only real reason why I haven't traded. And remember when I said we should have gone long GameStop? 159. So the first time we brought up that 152 break, it was, kind of went to like 54s. And the second time I brought it up, went to 56. And now it's at 159.
Yeah. I mean, when it decides to run, it just takes off, right? So it's just one of those things where when you have a runner, especially a name that's out there, GMCs, AMEs, or AMCs, you have these names that are just going to absolutely go nuts, especially towards the end of the day. If you think these names are going nuts today, just wait till next Friday, because it's bound to be some large imbalances on these names. GME specifically, look at the way it's moving. It's up $9 pretty much in the last, the last hour since 3 o'clock. We're just up $9 after double bottoming around that 148. Here we are back towards this 160 resistance point. There's going to be some activity on this name for the next couple days, so you just got to be aware of it. You got to set things up so you can actually execute some form of a strategy towards it. And when it comes to imbalances, I do this every time because we constantly have new viewers and everyone's different. So for everyone who's seen this before, you can just ignore it, I guess. But this is an imbalance locator, guys. At 350, we get an imbalance update, meaning that it shows us what orders need to be executed on the close with the official closing price. So what you have is the symbol here on the left-hand side, the direction, B or S, buy or sell, the size of the imbalance, how much has already been matched, and then this is from this morning, so this is not live. We're going to get a live update in about 5 minutes or so. At 350 is when NASDAQ and New York release their imbalances. And then the market time, that's the last update time. So what you have to pay attention to is these three figures here. The buy side, or buy or sell side, so the direction, the size, how much remains to be matched. So if, as of this morning, this stock had 1.5 million shares on the buy side that needed to be matched, on top of which there was 937,000 that already found a seller. So 1.56 million shares left on the table that need to find a seller. And then you take that into the official closing price, and what you have is that these numbers put pressure on the stock after the imbalances come out. So you have stocks moving as these imbalances are getting updated. At 350, you get the first batch, and then at 355, you get another update with the floor orders as well. And then from 355 onward, it's just a live update constantly with how much shares need to be done on what stock. And obviously, if the size of the imbalance is larger or somewhat relevant to the amount of shares done in a day, then it's going to be one of those things where if the stock has done 4 million shares and the imbalance at the end of the day is like 2 million, that's 50% of the day's volume. There's going to be some pressure in that name. Now, on a name like, say, AT&T, which may have done, 30 million shares, 32 million shares, and the imbalance is 2 million, you see the ratio there, right? Probably not as much influence because of the amount of volume that's done, how much volume is sitting on the levels, not that big of a deal. But what you have to pay attention to is how much size you're going to get on these imbalances relative to the volume that the stock does. So definitely a mover in certain names when the volume's high enough. On days like today where it seems like it's going to be somewhat thin, probably not that big of a deal. Next week, though, you're going to see these numbers change, and that's when it really matters. Every broker has access to this. It's just a matter of how are they going to kind of program it into their software, whatever software you use. Ours is Day Trade the World, so this is all built in-house. This imbalance locator is just kind of something that the program team kind of put together for us, and we constantly get updates. And if I just right-click, for anyone who's watching from any of our other offices, and we've got like almost 300 offices, 290 something, I believe. I think we need to confirm that.
Actually, I'm not even sure. It's probably close.
It's quite a bit. Anyways, for anyone who's watching from the other offices, you can always choose the market that you want to see. So right now, I've got NASDAQ in New York. We've got imbalances. For some of these, actually, they don't have imbalance numbers, but we have Canada, TSX, and we have all these other names that we can actually, or markets that we can put in here. And as long as you know what time these imbalances come out, you'll have access to them. So at 350, we're definitely going to be getting an update with these imbalances, and I'll show you guys once we get those numbers.
And I just want to quickly point out this SGMA, which I'm still in there at the 1405 range, but every time it comes down to 14 even here, even retests sort of where I'm in at that price, you see a bunch of dark buying down in that sort of 5 to 10 range. So someone's picking it up. It looks pretty bullish here. So I want to give that kind of a warning. I'm not giving it to high of the day. I'm stopping out pretty tight here at 1450, where I guess we'll give back what we made on the long side of the trade. Things just started picking up on Apple. This is ahead of the imbalances. You just had this move down. This wick down there is really skewing the chart. I do this so it looks a little more enticing. It just got to 178.50. Just as the ES was getting to 4,700 right at the top, the NASDAQ pressing the highs. I mean, Apple did like the legit pullback, and then volume came right back in, buying it up. So it's starting to get spicy going into this 350 range. That's why I've got a trailing stop at 85. I'm going to actually move that trail up to above 178. So I'm going trail at 178.15 here, and I want to make sure that trail is in. That Sigma's going to stop out at 50, so we'll give back what we made on the long, but I'm adjusting my stop on Apple as the imbalances are coming in less than 90 seconds here. And I do think there could be some profit taking. That's what I want to protect against in case there's a sell imbalance on this name. I don't think I had the same trouble with Peloton here. It has bounced, but obviously we're so far away from VWAP and we're right on those lows that, even if it comes up the wrong way, I can manually get out of this at 75s or 80s and be under control. GameStop, which we had just talked about it running, I mean, it got to 160 and did a bit of close to 160 and did a bit of a reversal. Right at where that failed breakout price happened, and Secret Owl and a couple of people, maybe a few people have mentioned INDI here. It's sort of a difficult thing to want to come to, and again, if it's not moving, then you definitely fooled me, but it's a difficult thing to add a symbol like right to the end of the day to look at. Down 20%. Like, is it setting up for a what kind of a bounce? On your 15 minutes, you've got a double bottom here at 1170, but there's no volume to think that it could break back out of the bottom of this range. If there was any kind of a volume spike on a barcode and it was earlier in the day, yeah, you might be looking for a 1225-ish break, knowing that you put in a double bottom, 65 cents worth of risk down to that 1160 level. But under pressure, no volume, no one really looking at this from what I can tell. Otherwise, you'd see it maybe churning through and showing some interest at this level. So I'm going to sit it out. I'm going to go to Apple here very, very quickly because imbalances are due right now. I don't know if you're going to show them their room.
Yeah, I got it up right up here. What is FTXN? It's got a 12 million share. These are unusually large. What? Okay. FTXN, what is this name? I don't even know what this is. FTXN NASDAQ.
That's huge.
That's huge. 11 million shares? Oh boy, okay.
Hang on.
There you go. This is what an imbalance does. For anyone wondering, this is what an imbalance does to an ETF, apparently. 11 million shares, 7.7 million shares paired. There's still 11 million left on the table. And this thing went from 20, it gapped up actually. It opened at 2030 and went all the way to 45. This is unusually large. We got to keep an eye on this because
I'm trying to question why that ETF has an imbalance like that.
Yeah.
But I covered Peloton. I'm only in Apple and Sigma here. Apple's absolutely churning to the upside. I don't know. It's got a 1.2 million share imbalance. So, like I said, I'd put a trailing stop in. Imbalances usually pair. I'm looking to bank this in front of 179, but one of the reasons why you put the trailing stop in is if it comes against you, you just get out so you're protecting your profit. If it goes for you, you're riding the winner to the upside. But the reality is most of the time you will see a pullback or reversal as imbalances pair off. So if we get in front of 179, we're going to take this one out. You know what? Heck, it's close enough here. I'm going to ring the register at 85. Who cares? Apple's been a fantastic trade. It could have been trade of the day. It'll end up being Peloton anyways to the short side, but Apple, this morning was the only thing I felt confident holding on to and then re-engaging in the long position. Everything else had those moments of weakness that we couldn't hold on, but Apple tried and true. Brendo?
So this ETF, guys, actually pays a dividend, so I'm wondering if this might actually be ex-dividend today. This is First Trust NASDAQ Oil and Gas ETF, so just a heads up, there might be a dividend involved.
Well, okay, we're sort of trying to figure it out ourselves here, but it's a 10 buy imbalance is what
10 million shares.
So
it's of which it's almost 20 million shares because 8.8 is already paired. Okay, we'll see at 355 when the floor update comes in. We'll see if this stays, because if this stays, this is going to be a hot fire, I guess is the word to use.
Super hot fire?
Super hot fire. If it stays 10 million shares after 355, usually at 355 when you get the floor update with the D quotes, it tends to get smaller. if not even completely change directions. So what you're going to see is either the 10 is going to get smaller or is going to become next to nothing. So we'll keep an eye on this. We've got about 3 minutes before we get an update on FTXN, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. And this is one of those names where it's completely taken off. BEKE also has a large imbalance for the type. No, it's done 8 million shares. That's okay, I guess. It's not too bad. What else is VIPS? VIPS is buy side as well. It looks like mostly a buy side imbalance based on what I'm seeing at the top of the list. Not much of a mover there. So I guess FTXN is going to be the name to keep an eye on, as 8 million shares on the buy side, 9 million shares actually on the buy side, with 10 million already paired. And the stock's only done 5 million shares.
It's dirty the move that it's done. Like, if you're wondering why why we're probably not like trading it and just buying it, the algos picked that one up and took it. Like, it was doing no volume and no movement on the day, and the algos picked it up to 50s. And if you buy that late, you're just gonna get crushed, right? Like, it just snaps back down here, and that's the reason. Like, by the way, like, you're gonna see I'm now flat, no positions, got stopped out. So I'll do this for that last trade that we had to the short side on SGMA, Apple. Oh, AAPL, that's why I mistyped there. But Apple, the reason I wanted to get out, and we'll ring the register for the final time in front of 179, you power it up. Take your profit. A lot of times as things pair off, they come the other way. Now, Apple continues to run here with the futures, but like you saw on that FLXN there, FTXN I should say, a lot of times it can be a big imbalance in your favor, and then it's like the initial reaction now goes buy it up, and then it snaps back down as people take the profit. Now, Apple is obviously a bit of a different story, but still, you never know what can happen. I'm still looking over at GameStop, which is, I think, a good sign. If you're a day trader, you want this level to be actionable on Monday morning, right? Like, it comes back into this 160 level. I don't care which way you want to trade this thing, but a couple of failed breakouts at the open. Let's check 3 in a row. Failed break, recovery, failed break, recovery. Look what happened the last time it did something like this. It got there not really later in the day, but about 11 o'clock. It double failed at that particular price. It did this here as well. If you go back on the second, where it was a failed break, made a low, made a late recovery, and then just fell off those same levels before. So one of these days, it's going to give you a breakout of one of these recovery levels. Otherwise, it's just a good short off of this level again, that 160. So I'd be looking failed break at 160 GameStop Monday morning with a potential breakout at 162.5 or so. So GameStop's going to be on the radar. Yeah, you're right. It's
6.5 million shares on the buy side. So it looks like the imbalance is going to be somewhere close to 20 million. Total. So you see this taking off now, the pressure that the imbalance is putting on the stock. It started at 15, and within seconds, because of the algos picked it up, I went from 2015 all north of 2045, went as high as 2049, came back once the algos kind of stopped, and now is starting to kind of move back up with the 5.5 million share imbalance here, 13.5 million share getting paired. So it is pairing these imbalances quickly. But at the same time, 5.5 million share imbalance on a stock that's done, 7 million shares on the day, that's kind of high. So definitely keep an eye on this. To go with Neil, we've already dumped our Peloton as well. Yeah. Peloton came out a small buy. It wasn't too big, so we just kind of dumped that as well.
I want to get to the super chat. And this is a very, very important and valid question here, because this was Preetham 7. Asking, why is the SPY moving up when the inflation is so high after the CPI data? What should we look for next week? Keep in mind, there were estimates. It was 6.8 in the year over year number, and people were saying there was estimates of over 7, as high as 9. A lot of people saying it could be worse than this, and it's going to be the worst ever. And there was an expectation that it could come even higher than that, Prince. So, having it come out exactly as expected, given the environment that we're in, I think is a bit of a positive sign. But here's the only reason why it's not just like, oh, hands off, just buy everything you can. Like, look for support, like AMD 135, that's support. Buy on that kind of weakness. I don't have a level for Square, so hold off. Because next week the Fed meets, right? And at the end of the day, even though it was as expected at 6.8, they come and confirm the faster taper and then start talking about the likelihood of raising rates earlier next year, that could be still a bit of a downward drag on the market. So I don't know that you got the all clear just yet, but in terms of today, I think we're up 1% because it came as expected. And I think a few of us were saying, I think Brendan opened the show saying this, that coming out as expected could be somewhat strong for the market, even though obviously 6.8 year over year is not anybody's idea of a positive thing overall for stocks. Expectations are what matter with these prints, and we got what was expected despite all the doom and gloom, thinking it would be over 7%. So that's what I would have for you there. Only 2.5 minutes to go. it's been a fun one. As usual, Rune doing a fantastic job filling in for Sean here. Not coming to poker night at the office, although it'll be fun. I know you got a nice dinner.
I got a date with an octopus.
Date with an octopus.
It's going to be good. It's going to be delicious. It's going to be grilled. And I've got a pizza, too. So, Italian restaurant for anyone who hasn't heard my little explanation from earlier. So, no, I'm not actually dating an octopus. I'm well married. But we're going to go out and have some Italian food. So I'm keeping an eye on FTXN here. It does look like it wants to stay at 4.5 million shares all over the place here. But definitely some pressure here. Every time it falls, it catches back up. So we'll keep an eye on this. I've got it up there on a second screen just to see what the print ends up being. It's trading around 2026 right now, but I'm curious to see what the final print is, because the final print should be somewhere north of 20 million shares. That would be the official closing price, by the way. That's what I'm talking about, because keep in mind, these imbalances, they get inserted into the final, or they are part of the calculation for the final closing price, right? Or the official closing price that you're going to see anywhere. So when the final volume also goes off, we're going to see where this closes. You're seeing a massive offer come in at 2030. As long as there's more than enough buy-side volume, that should get taken out. There it goes. So we'll see how this comes in, but this is going to be an interesting close, especially for this stock. And for anyone who's wondering, I am back on Monday. Sean, for anyone who's missing, Sean, tomorrow or Monday is Sean's last day that he's taking off. That's his last day.
He packed them all in.
He packed them all in, so he's done.
I still got a few.
He's still got a few, and Brendan's got a few as well. So I will be back, but apart from Monday, it won't be for Sean, because Sean, he brings the energy. He will be here for you guys on Monday.
Oh my God, market.
But I will be here for Neil or Brendan at some point during the week.
47.05 on the futures, 190,
Yeah.
179.50 on Apple. I mean, Microsoft, without
Apple's
even looking,
going to 180.
Microsoft making some fresh highs. So good end of the week, as we were saying, possibly because we got as expected. Remember, the Fed does come through, and it's about what their reaction is. Like, what do they say about these levels? Miss V is in the green. She's going to ring the bell. But today, strong enough not to need it. A great way to end the week, a great way to start our poker night here. But get the camera off me. Show Miss V. She's about to drop the bell.
Now.
Put a smile on everyone's face. There we go. 5, 4, 3, 2. Ring it.
They came right at the end with like a million shares in the offer.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was a huge offer. I was watching FTXN. There was a huge offer that came in. It was like 1 million shares on one, and then it stepped down for another 1 million shares. It was ridiculous. You could tell that it wasn't going to print that hard or that crazy. They would offset this imbalance of 4.2 million easily with the amount that was coming in right at the end. So it looks like 2030 was, I would guess, based on what I was seeing, 2030 would be the official closing price.
Yeah, and Apple closed near its highs there, 179.50-ish, it looks like there. So a nice closer for Apple. Let's see how the overall market did. Ooh, I already saw that board. Bit of a cheat. Brendo, how we?
Yeah, very strong. Along with Apple, guys, I saw Juniper, JNPR, all-time highs right at the close. A bit of a buying balance for that stock as well. Here we go. 1 full percent, we'll call it, for the S&P, half on the Dow, NASDAQ about the same, 1 full percent to the upside. So great way to end off the week. Yeah, Bitcoin had a bit of a bounce back there heading into the latter parts of the afternoon. Obviously doesn't close 24-hour market, but Ethereum still lagging a bit at the bottom there.
I'm trying to figure, the TSX is going to be down, like crude's up, so energy held up today.
It was
the rest
mostly
of the market's
metals,
at high.
gold.
Come on, TSX. That SGMA, for those of you that are watching, it cracked 15 right here at the close. And then, this was me getting stopped out at 14.50 when it got to 15 even, then smacked back down. Then it breaks 15 and smacks back down. So, I mean, it's just whatever. That's dirty. It's running stops and then flushing. So, that's a bit of a trap. Be careful if you're trading that in the pre-market. As always, thank you guys. You're the best community out there. Trading community, YouTube community. You guys are the best for sure. Look forward to seeing all of you on Monday. Have a fantastic, fun, and safe weekend. As always, for the entire team, Natalie's over here. She's off camera. She always tries to hide. Maggie's back, so she's feeling much better. I don't see her. I don't know where Rob is. It's Lucas all by himself on the board. So show yourself there, Lucas. Give a bit of a wave. Prad's already sort of getting ready. You can probably see everyone walking back, getting ready for poker night. So he's not at his desk. Thank you, Miss V and Brendan, as always. Have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy yourselves. We are Trader TV Live. It's time for poker night. Bye, guys.